Hello, everybody. Good evening. And I am glad you guys are back. And yes, you are tuned into Knowledge and Relationships here with me, Lola. And I'm glad you joined me tonight for the Chronicles of Lola. I like that name. Tonight is going to be a good show. It's going to be a different kind of show. So I'm gonna take a little time to kind of, ease my way into this conversation because it may ruffle some feathers. But either way, we're gonna get into it, and I'll probably need to say this a few times as people kind of trickle in. But tonight will be a night where there will be questions answered from the chat. So if you have any questions about what I present today and you want to talk about it and challenge me, you can put your questions in the chat and I will choose them or have one of my people in the back choose them for me and I'll be addressing them. So, as in true fashion, we're not going to have everyone coming up and having their own little spew on every topic that they want to pick, but we will allow the audience to drive the show tonight. I feel like I have to switch it up on you guys sometime. It's how you keep a relationship nice. Switch it up sometime. Um, but yeah, I want to let you guys kind of get in here for a little bit. I don't want to get started too early. Um, but I'll give you guys a somewhat of a small intro as we get into this. I was inspired to this conversation over the last 2 weeks because I have been heavily thinking about the issue of men and women creation and the whole online conversation about men and women and the nature of men and women. And ever since I was a child, I've had a strange inclination that the relationship between men and women is something out of this world. Meaning that there's another explanation for the problems that we have, because the problems we have as a species seem to be so unnatural. It's unreal, if that makes sense. And so tonight, I will be drawing some conclusions from some religious works, mainly because those religious works are the only works we have on record, while science has, in a sense, or the scientific community in a sense, is still researching and the jury is still out on this topic. And it doesn't matter if the jury is out on this topic. We're still going to talk about it, and we're still going to give our intellectual contributions to it. And so, when I talk about the nature of men and women, I'm not speaking of the personality nature of men and women. Um, because that's such a subjective term, right? But there are some things about the nature of men and women that is eerily corresponding to something that most people are not really paying attention to as they get inside of the conversation of, well, are women better than men? Are men more efficient than women? Are men smarter than women? All of these different studies that people use to prove, well, what is the nature of mankind? So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna kind of do some exploration, and like I said, I'm gonna give you guys my theory tonight, and you can not dial in, but you can type in and ask your questions. So I'm gonna do a little bit of housework here with my own notes. As you guys know, I take plenty notes, and tonight I don't have my pen, but I have my mouse, and I will be typing. Um, so we're gonna do that, and I'll give you guys that in a little bit. Where we at on time? Okay, so in about a couple minutes, we'll officially get started, and then we can start taking some questions. And throughout the show, I'll repeat what the central conspiracy is, so that everyone can kind of keep up. Because I hate when people come in and they're just late, and I'm like, oh, you're messing up my flow here. But we will do that. So I'm gonna let you guys kind of get your drinks and get ready, and then we'll get started in just a few. Uh, one sec. Okay. Okay. All right, we almost there, you guys. I'm almost ready here, and then I will be getting started. So, hey, Vaughn. Okay. Okay. Let me pull this up here and come back a little bit. Okay. Greetings, Mr. Bryant. How are you? Okay, Mr. Bryant, you I know you may have an opinion about this topic once I get done. And that's okay. But you're more than welcome to come up. But we will be taking questions from the audience today. And if we go a little off topic, that's fine. However, it is Prove Me Wrong Fridays. So if you don't have a concise argument or can point to actual evidence, this will be a smoke session. So, get your fire extinguishers out because this is what it's going to be. Okay. All right. I think I'm good to go. Okay, everybody. So it's a few people in, so I'll slow roll it, and you guys can. Let me make sure I'm keeping up with the chat here. Yes, Ryan. It is always good to be here. Good to see you. All right. So I'm gonna pseudo get started, and I'll give you guys an intro to the actual topic because, like I said, I've always had an inclination to the conversation of human origins. That's why I went to school, and my undergraduate degree was in anthropology. I had a minor in anthropology, and my major was in investigation. So I've always been on a search for human origins, and I love religious religious leanings towards this because it's so interesting to pick these stories apart and imagine the answers to these enigmas that actually, yeah, it is the enigma of the century, which is what are human origins. Some people believe that humans come from nothing, notwithstanding what nothing is. Some people just believe that, we evolved, even though everyday science is disproving evolution of human beings. But tonight, you're going to have to prove me wrong on something, okay? Now, getting into it. The first source that I'm going to be using is the book of Genesis, because I love the book of Genesis, okay? That is like one of my favorite books to read over and over and over again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a passage to you all. And we may have to read this again, but I'll read the passage to you all. And then I'm going to come back to help you guys see what I see and what the implications of that is, right? So I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to start from Genesis 17, and I'm going to go down maybe 5 or 6 verses, and then I'll stop, okay? So Genesis 17 starts with essentially the command of not to eat from the tree of good and evil. And keep in mind, tonight I'm not doing the politically correct conversation about words chosen, okay? I'm not debating that. I know you guys hear me say that a lot, but there's reasons why I don't debate certain things on certain internet platforms. So Genesis 2:17, don't eat of the tree of good and evil, or you're going to certainly die. Okay, cool. We got that. The story really begins after that, okay? Now, mind you, the thing to keep in mind about what I'm reading is that Genesis 17 starts with just Adam, or a man, okay? It's just a man here. All right? There's no woman here. Okay? Some of you guys know where I'm going with this. Okay. Now, Genesis 2:18 says, generally speaking, okay, New International Version, the Lord God said, it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him. Now, this right here is a verse that I want you guys to kind of stay with me on, okay? So keep in mind, Adam is here. There's no woman. Something happened to the point that God said, or the Elohim, however you want to word that, said something went wrong. It ain't good for him to be alone anymore. Even though the Elohim of God knew about male and female and the need for them too, Adam was created by himself for a purpose, and that purpose was where he was at when this was said. He was on his purpose when God decided something ain't working. He alone and he feeling lonely, and something ain't working. Like he probably ain't doing his job right because he feeling lonely, going through conniptions and whatnot. I need to make him a helper. Now, like I said, keep that in mind. I'm gonna keep reading on, then I'm gonna come back because we missing something. It goes on in Genesis 2:19 to say, now the Lord God had formed out of the ground all the wild animals and all the birds in the sky. He, as in God, brought them to the man to see what he would name them. And whatever the man called each living creature, that was its name. Okay, cool. Everything got a name. Okay, Genesis 2:20. So the man gave names to all the livestock, the birds in the sky, and all the wild animals. But for Adam, no suitable helper was found. Okay. Now, little note on this one. Okay. Notice it says livestock and birds and stuff. So you can kind of sort of put this in time in a certain place. Okay. So we know what time in history this was not. This was not during the dinosaurs' time. Okay. With livestock and farms and stuff. All right, let's keep it going. So the Lord God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep. And while he was sleeping, he took one of the man's ribs and then closed up the place with flesh. Okay, cool. Some operations going on. Then the Lord God made a woman from the rib he had taken out of the man, and he brought her to the man. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is this. You guys heard that, right? So the woman is being created. Let's go back. You see how she's being created, right? Give me a second. Now, let's go back to Genesis 2:20. It says, so the man gave names to all the livestock, the birds in the sky, and all the wild animals. But for Adam, no suitable helper was found. Now, there's some implications here that I don't think too many people are really aware of. Okay. All right. In Genesis, it says that God saw that there was a problem, and the problem was man was lonely. Okay. But then God decided to help man out and give man a helper. And that helper was not a woman. That helper was an animal. That's what God decided that it would try with Adam to see if that would work. And the context of this is experimental. It really is. So the whole story of mankind naming animals has everything to do with the fact that God, or the Elohim, does not want to give Adam a woman. Like, it just doesn't want to give him that. They want to give him something, anything outside of a woman. Okay. But when they gave him these animals to be a helper, these animals couldn't help him. Now, I don't know about you all, but I could have told you that ain't no animals fitting to help him do what a woman can help him do. And I'm not going to be too gross with this, but you guys know where I'm leaning with that one. Okay, I could have told you that, but somehow the creator of the universe is experimenting with Adam, because strangely, instead of just giving him a woman from jump or making two, we're going to try animals first and see if that soothes this loneliness going on in Adam. Okay. Now, I found that to be very interesting. Ever since I was a child, this verse right here has been plaguing the crap out of me, because I've always asked myself, well, why wasn't the woman just created with him at the same time? Turns out the woman wasn't needed for what Adam was created for. He had a mission for whatever he was doing in that garden. It says he was working in there. I'm not going to judge that, but he didn't need a woman to do that. He only needed a woman when something was demonstrated of him outwardly that told, quote unquote, God that he needed somebody. And God just didn't want to give him a woman, but God tried. Okay, God tried. And then, strangely, according to this verse, failed, as in, quote, but for Adam, no suitable helper was found. Suitable, meaning something that something that could actually help him. Now, I've seen elephants help humanity. I've seen birds help humanity. I've seen dogs help humanity. I have seen squirrels help humanity. Bears. I've seen a lot of animals help humanity. I've seen bloodsuckers help humanity. Seriously, dolphins. Like, the list goes on. But the fact that no suitable helper was found means that we're not talking about physical labor. Okay. Yeah, this is kind of eerie. So the implications here, one, is that females are not needed for creation. That's the implication here. And two, mankind, humans, like human males, were never meant to have female counterparts. That's not what they were ever meant to have. And the only reason why females were created was to soothe something in males that was causing them to act in a way contrary to why they were created in the first place, which was to work. Obviously, males are attracted to females, and you can't take that out of them. That's a natural thing. So this is what we're getting from the major, and I say major because of the amount of people that follow Christianity, but the major creation story in the world that everyone's acclimated to is literally saying that women wasn't meant to be created. That was literally saying, like, the world was fine without women. Now, here's what's really crazy about this, right? It goes on for Adam to be introduced to, the woman. And the first thing he does is acknowledge that she looks just like him. Okay? She is like him. So that gives some context to the fact that, okay, he hadn't been aware of something like him. He was very much new to something like him. Now, I know some people would say, there was other human beings on the planet before Adam, whatever the case may be. That's not up for debate right now. I'm sure that would be a lovely debate, but I'm not debating that right now. However, the issue with humanity today is quote unquote stemming from this guy named Adam, okay? And his chick, whatever. So here's the problem. When we hear people online or wherever say that men can survive without women, right? They don't need women. You hear some people, I know you guys have heard some content creators say men would be fine all by themselves. They would, right? They don't need women to survive. According to the Bible, they don't. But what people are missing from the Bible is that the reason why mankind could survive without woman is because of the way mankind was coming into being. Meaning, they were coming into being in a way that wasn't natural, because the Bible makes clear that all other species were naturally created and were naturally reproducing and producing themselves. Whereas Adam was not. He was a lone wolf, if you want to call it that. So, at some point, we have to, say what it is. Now, I know there's some people that would say, listen, I don't follow the Bible is bullshit, but I would implore you to look at any creation myth prior to the Bible, okay? Whether you're talking about the Native North American creation myths, the Australian creation myths, you can go to the Hindu creation myths, and you'll find the same pattern, which is there was a male and then a female. And we say, well, nothing can come from a non-woman. We're not talking about natural creation here. That's not what we're talking about. And when we say, well, men were not created to need women, we mean that literally. But the problem is, naturally, there was something, and there is still, and there will always be something missing from men, to which they will need women to psychologically maintain. Now, somebody had mentioned that if you took women out of the equation, off the planet, and left men here, okay, they would be so much better than women that they would end up killing each other just on the strength. Now, I do believe that, because, as emotional as women are, most, emotional crime happens, committed by, none other than yours truly. But the problem I have is not the argument that, well, men could survive without women, okay? That's not the argument. Because you probably could survive and live your days out, but the male species couldn't survive without an intervention, which is what the Bible is speaking of. Natural survival, no. And that leads me to my point, which is, if men are better than women, or women are better than men, right? The problem that we have here theoretically is you cannot be better than the thing that you need to maintain. Like, you can't be better than that. Okay. And like, it doesn't matter how long you think you're going to survive out in the cold when, all of humanity falls and we're sitting out here back in the Stone Ages. There's some people that want to go back to the Stone Ages and want zombies walking around like an apocalypse. They want that, right? But, whether or not you have that or not, at the end of the day, men need women for psychological development. Okay, just period. And I ain't talking about babies. I mean grown men. They do. And essentially, based on what we are understanding about females through the lens of human origins according to the Bible, the Enuma Elish, different creation myths from all over the world, including the Islamic mythology. Okay, and I'm not going to attack dance on Islam too much, but that is not excluded in this argument. Okay, what we're looking at is the belief that mankind, men, as in human men, okay, it's kind of hard to separate that. Human men were not created from women, and they're not naturally acclimated to women. Hence the curse that comes down in Genesis from God, stating that because of what they did, that they would not get along. The woman would want to love her spouse as any normal spouse of species would. However, it's not going to gel together. That's a curse, right? So you would wonder, well, how does that curse work? Like, is it something inside of our DNA that makes us inevitably enemies, right? Inside the Islamic tradition, we all know about the curse. You understand, of enmity being placed between man and woman. That was, quote unquote, Allah's doing of that. That was not mankind saying, I just hate my wife. No, that was a curse. So the question now further becomes, can we get out of this stupor of a time where men and women just can't get along? Are we inevitably bound to being enemies for the rest of the eon? Because according to our belief systems, we're cursed to be in this way. Now, I mean, I know you guys are going to come and say, well, no, that's not technically how it is, and God didn't curse anyone. That was just something that naturally happened. But it all comes back to, are we really like inevitably tied to never being of species to which we can get along with one another, period, as male and female? Because there's always been a fight between male and female. And we know that. Females have always been an underclass, an oppressed underclass at that. And I'm not saying every single place on the planet operated, like what we all thinking right now. However, it was pretty widespread for most of human history. So, we have too much evidence to argue that. But either way, whether you believe that mankind are cursed to this issue between men and women, right? And that's where this is stemming from. Or you believe that because of mankind's innate creation, being something that was created first without a woman, equipped to not really need a female counterpart, and that's why there's this issue, because it's not a natural mating selection thing. Whatever side you on, okay, you can leave a comment, and for the people who do have the link to come up, you can come up and give me your thoughts on that, or give me your thoughts on that in the comment section. Now, again, we talk about content creators that we all know about, very famous ones, that tend to say, who's better than who and why and all of this. And even some would say, we had, male, male lovers, whatever. And so we didn't need females. I'm willing to rock with that. I really am. At this point, I could rock with that. Like, I can rock with that. Like, maybe that's what it was, because I've always said to myself, nothing is new under the sun. So where in the world did the rainbow come from? Where? Okay. Wow. So you guys can tell me You can let me know, hey, that rainbow popped up later on, or you could tell me maybe that rainbow was already fitting to kick off because mankind wasn't made to even be with a woman. So it would make kind of sense a little bit, but let me know what you think, because ultimately I'm not saying any particular creation myth is true or not, right? But what I am saying is that there's some eerily similar issues going on in these explanations, and you can't deny that. Like you can't deny like what's happening at all, because according to, or at least from what I'm reading, okay, and you guys, I mean, look, I stand to be corrected, okay. So Von Bryant, if you want to debate me on that, like I said, I'm not debating certain stuff tonight, because it would be all night we would be debating like the meaning of the word Elohim. Like, listen, I've seen too many scholarly conversations about the word Elohim. I mean, we already know the basic breakdown of that word, which is not singular. It doesn't come from a language that has that in it for it to mean anything singular. However, I don't care if it's singular or not. The problem isn't the definition of Elohim. The problem is what's actually being said about the nature of man, as in males, that they were created without a female counterpart. And the only reason why they were given a female counterpart is because something went wrong. Literally, like something went wrong. I'm not used to saying that, the God of creation, that which created all things, created one thing without a counterpart. That doesn't even make sense for balance to exist. It just doesn't. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Creation has its own nature, and it just doesn't make sense. So, but what does make sense is artificial creation of a species that does not exist for a specific reason. Now, I know some Christians kind of get appalled when you compare the Bible to the Enuma Elish. But I will say this: whether or not you believe in the Enuma Elish in terms of its authenticity for human origins, right? You cannot deny that there is a strange similarity between that book and Genesis, like a strange problem. And one correlation that was like too undeniable is coming from using the word rest. Okay. Now, let me see. Hey, Vaughn. Hold on, give me 1 sec, because you know how my computer is. When new people come up, it be acting 10 card. Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you. You on mute.
Okay, I'm back. I can hear you now. My computer be going out sometimes, and then I'll be like, okay, it's too quiet.
Because your computer is saying what? Your computer saying, stop playing. What is? Oh my God.
Listen to me. No. Listen to me. My
Oh
computer my computer does that when I'm at work, and trust me, it does not mean I need to leave work. I tell you that right now.
Because you be playing at work too, just like you sitting up here playing. That's why you be playing at work, just like you sit up here playing.
Look here. Now I don't play at work. I leave work and play. Okay. And then I come
Okay,
back.
let's get to the nitty gritty. What is this argument that you are establishing?
Okay.
What is the principle of your argument?
Okay. Now here's the thing, right? I'm kind of playing devil's advocate in that there's different sides of this that one could take. Either side is quite troubling to me personally. Okay. But there's one side that one could argue that the reason why men and women have innate issues in terms of compatibility, right? To which, like, it's not like other species on the planet, is because we're not natural. We're not a natural species. And via the Bible and all these other accounts of human origins, as far back as the first account, it's literally saying that humans are not natural. Like, they're not natural. And there's not natural to the point that males were created without females.
Okay.
Now, that's one argument, right? That's one. On the other side, there's the side that the reason why men and women have issues is because, from a religious standpoint, God, or the Elohim, cursed them to being this way, which leads to questions of, is this in our DNA now to inevitably always be enemies to one another, as the Bible reads in terms of whatever translation you use? Are we destined to be that because of some curse that are on us versus our innate nature to get along? Like, which one is it? So you can kind of see on both sides, this is a problem, whichever one you take. But my thing is, if you believe that men and women have issues because of something else outside of us, based on the information we have, okay, you kind of have to pick a side. Now, whatever side you pick, obviously, at least in this conversation tonight, you should be able to defend. Me, on the other hand, I would rather say, look, according to the information we have, we are a natural species. And maybe, okay, women were not really needed for creation, given how we came about. Maybe we are not needed for humankind to move forward, because that's not how we began. Maybe, okay, maybe the reason why women were created was an unnatural process because men had something missing that females are supplementing. Maybe, I don't know, but we can debate it, or we can find some evidence. However, it's hard to find hardcore evidence outside of just these accounts and what we can tell from our own experiences, which is, we ain't fitting to get along.
Well, okay, but let's go back to when you say what is natural. Why where did you get that as far as us not being natural?
Okay, so initially I got that from just me looking at human nature over time, right? And my own questions, reading the Bible and reading other creation myths, in terms of how did we come about? Because it seems like humans are not natural to this planet. Like, it's even when you talk about Black Africans, as people say they're the first humans, okay? Even then, you can find instances where we don't quite fit on this planet. We just don't. From our physical makeup to our psychological makeup to when the bones are in the ground that we find, it doesn't match up to something that really should be quote unquote evolved. We have nothing to connect to species. We have no genetic ties to. It's a weird circumstance, or everywhere you look, no matter what scientific community you're in, everybody is like, what in the world happened? How did we get here? We can spell out how everything else got here, but us.
But can we be nature? We can be of nature, but we're not. We're a different type of nature when it comes to what other you described: the trees, animals, the dirt, whatever. We are a different type. We are what do you call it? We're nature, but not in the way as everything else that you described.
Well, I would agree, but I would agree on the basis of, for instance, the species of dogs we see today. They're not natural, but they're actual animals, yes, in terms of nature, but they're not natural, meaning they came about per artificial, coming together.
It's just, I got that. Well, okay.
Yeah.
It means they was created, but they was created with the help of nature, though. You agree with that? They was when they was created, when they spliced together, it was with the help of nature, but it was done as far
to a further extent. Yes, but you can kind of see the difference, though.
Yeah,
like,
Yeah.
Like if we left this planet, right, and somebody came 3 trillion years later, they wouldn't find these animals where they would think they would find them without understanding our intervention. But see, the word intervention is the operative word here, meaning this: as we intervened and created a new species, right, that now is a plethora of species, right,
Mm-hmm.
I feel that that has been done in the past, and the Bible and all these other, creation myths for right now is attesting to that. Because when I look at it, right, it's kind of inane to say women are not needed. It's just kind of stupid to say that, right? But when
Uh-huh.
you really look at what the books are saying, they're not saying females are not needed. They're saying that based on how humans came about, female humans are not needed to create the human species. And that may be true given how Adam was created, meaning that according to the Bible and all these other creation myths, he was created in a process that nothing else was created in, which screams something different, if not to an extent of artificial. Two, when you look at, let's say, not the Bible, but every other creation myth, there's always an entity involved that needs something done, and humans are the only thing that soothes the issue of the whatever problem that being is having, right? Like in each story, it's the same thing repeated over and over again, and to a
So
lesser extent in the Bible.
so you so now are you separating male and female from Adam, and Adam will be considered the human, and male and female is different, or are they together in your book?
I would
Okay.
like to separate it, right? I would like to, because, like I said earlier, there's a section of the Bible that speaks about, or speaks as though
Mhm.
there were other humans, Bible humans on the planet when Adam and Eve, you know that part, right? But
Okay, let's separate it.
I
I can
didn't want to,
separate it.
right. I
Yeah.
didn't want to debate that per se, because the
Okay.
issue people are having is whatever curse came down on this particular man. Okay,
Okay, let's see. Okay, I got
that's
you. So
what
let's
we did.
separate. Okay,
Right.
let's separate that. Let's separate male and female and deal with the human when it comes to
Mhm.
Adam and Eve.
Right.
Now,
Kind of
you
hard.
said Eve. You would say Eve is not actually really is needed, but as
Mhm.
time went on, we will see that she was. Now, as far as women and men, remember she was the first one that went against God's word. So she was the rebellious. You know how women is. Y'all rebellious. We say
Mhm.
one thing, y'all do the other. Y'all still do this this
That's
to this
God's
day.
work for you, though.
That's what.
That's God's work right there.
Okay, we can see. I
That's
can see
God's
that.
work right there.
Right, and you use God's work to rebel against the man.
No, no,
Right. You
no, no, no.
using God's work to rebel
Okay,
against you using God's work, his gift, to rebel against the man.
okay. But
And to rebel against God. Uh-huh.
let's go with the rebellion piece, right? The
Okay.
woman rebels, the man does something, right? Something happens, and they get punished. All right. The punishment was that they would never get along. That was the punishment. That essentially,
They never get along?
if you read the verse where it says that Eve will want to love her husband, but she will find no love from him, even though God wasn't quote unquote talking to Adam, that curse is retroactive in to Adam, in that if I tell you you'll never be able to speak to your wife, although I'm not talking to your wife, that means that your wife won't communicate with you either. Like there will be no communication. So my question is, if that curse cursed us in truth, right, which I'm okay with, does that mean that we're in a sense running in circles, trying to figure out how we can get along, when in reality there's no way to get around quote unquote God's curse? Like,
But I don't see where it says that they will never get along, because they end up procreating, getting together to procreate. And
no,
it
no.
says Adam and Eve.
After
Huh?
they left the garden, or not left the garden, after they was put out, okay.
Uh-huh.
Um, the, Eve was cursed with, obviously, according to the book, having labor pains and so on. But part of her curse was that she would want to reach out and love her husband, and she would find no love from him, basically.
What? I thought it was she was an enemy between her and the serpent.
That was separate. This is what I'm saying. It's not just one thing that happened to her. It's a series.
Right. It's a sequel, but you have to pull that up and refresh my memory on that they would never get along.
Okay. Hold on. I'll pull it up right now. Okay. I don't know why people saying that. They're saying now suddenly that verse means that sexual intercourse would be painful to her, not childbirth. I don't understand that. But okay.
Well, I don't understand that one either. But I guess it comes. I guess that's part of it. It comes with the territory. So it could be.
Right, yeah, true. Well, if she's a virgin, sure.
Right.
But that's not a curse. That's
well, it depends on who. It depends on who's looking at it because it hurts.
Yeah, true. Yeah, if
curse
you
hurts,
hurting, then yeah, it's a curse.
Right. So either that could be a good pain or a hurting pain. So it depends on the person. You know, pain. They say pain is pleasure. You know, as JC says. So
yeah, I can see that. I can see that. But here it is in Genesis 3:16. It goes down to say, "In pain you shall bear children. Your desire or your love shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you."
Right.
So here's the thing. Here's the contrast. The top verse, your desires or love, however this word is defined, shall be to your husband, right? We're talking about something that's intangible, like your connection, right? You want your husband, but he gonna rule over you. So the ruling is in the context here is you're gonna want love. You're gonna want to be with him, right? But that's the but. Like, no, that ain't gonna happen.
That's it. That's here it come.
But I'm just saying, like, it's not gonna happen. And my thing is, okay, what are we talking about today? What is the biggest issue today? Women want men, yet we can't find men, yet they all here, right? What's the issue here?
So you're saying, I think I see where you're going with this. You're saying her desire will be for her husband, but his might not be for her due to the sin that she did when she took in. Oh, I got you. And that will carry on even unto the day when it comes to getting into a relationship with a man. Oh, I got you. Okay.
And the only reason why I can conceive of that happening is that it's genetic, meaning that it's passed down, meaning that this is something that our species, not every species on the planet, but our species have to deal with. And why do we have to deal with that? Because of our innate nature. Like, he shall rule over you has to do with his nature to do so. Her desire for him has to do with her nature to do so. So,
and the reason is because of the curse. But the reason is because of the curse, correct?
Right. But this is what I'm saying. If you're going to go with the narrative of, well, we are cursed, right? We haven't been, to my knowledge, okay, we haven't been lifted from that curse. And today in 20
wait a minute. What
I can't say that I can see.
But how okay. You say it has not been lifted.
If it should
because but would you agree on this? When two people do get together and what you're saying that occurs does not occur, do you agree that the curse is lifted? Even though it might not be said that God said I'm taking a curse away, but as two people come together as one and they do get along and they don't have any friction, do you believe that the curse has been lifted?
Now, okay, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna say yes or no, but I'm gonna explain why I say yes or no. Here's the thing, right? I'm gonna say no first, in that this statement is about humanity in general. It's not necessarily talking about each and every individual per se. And what we see in general is exactly this, right? Literally in general, we see this. So that's why in general in society over time, over history, we've seen women trying to essentially be women to their husbands. However, their husbands literally have just been a ruler over them, not someone to, generally speaking, not someone to reciprocate how their desire for them or their love for them, thus the underclass that women have been in for so many millennia. However,
what's your observation on that? Is that because where you are today and where you know?
Well, no, I'm just looking at it generally speaking over time. Okay.
Over time, where? Because over time, where years ago, it wasn't like as you see today.
Oh no, it was worse.
Oh, it was here.
The thing is, America is the newest thing on the Earth block. Okay, we're like
right.
2 seconds old, and even here in our little 2 measly seconds being old, we were just a couple years ago where women couldn't own property, women couldn't inherit anything from their fathers, women couldn't remote their bodies were currency for their parents and for their brothers or whoever had them in their physical custody. Like female children were regularly aborted after they were born. Okay, and we're not even going to go into the generalization of domestic violence just generally. Okay, and the killing of women for frivolous things that just because they were women. In every culture, we're not going to even go into all of the savagery that we have kind of come out of, but we're here. And even though we're here, we're still dealing fundamentally with this issue right here. Like literally.
Oh, so you're talking about the way. Okay. So you're talking about the way the social construct was put together.
Correct.
Put female.
So that's why I would say. That's why I would say. Well, no, I don't believe that this curse would be technically lifted because it's not every single individual per se, right? However, I would say yes, it has, and not that I'm a hardcore leftist Christian, but I would say yes, it has because if you read the New Testament, right, generally speaking. Jesus, okay, and I like the word Jesus, not Yeshua. I don't like the Yeshua word. I like Jesus. Jesus made it clear that the God of the Old Testament that his folk was preaching about, he didn't quite believe in that God. Like not that one, not the savage God that they was talking about. He made it clear there's a difference between who you talking about and who I'm talking about. Like he regularly made that clear. Now, with him doing that, he made it very clear that the desire of a woman for her husband should be reciprocated, and it can be reciprocated if we simply want it to be that way. He literally said, "As you think, you will be." So
that means if you break it down, generalize it. That's what I mean when I said years ago, as far as how couples were. Is different than it is in the generation that we're into today. Even our generation, I think more people stuck together. Especially
they didn't really stick together. Like you can't say they stuck together when survival is such a dire circumstance.
That's what made them. That's what a lot of
sticking together as a couple. They're sticking together for sociological reasons. Like. 2 women could stick together so they can eat. That doesn't mean that.
But I'm not talking about that's something different. If 2 people come together due to survival and the relationship grew on how they came together, they still together, and the curse could be lifted by them getting along.
But
her desire, and her desire to him, that curse could be lifted, even though. You're saying that they got together on survival. That's some people did, and a lot of people didn't.
Well, remember the famous saying that if you marry for love, that was a rare thing. That was a world saying. That was not. That was something that was common that people said.
That was put together by a philosopher that made it general.
That was generally when you married for status, you married for survival, you married because your father needed sheep, you married for whatever reason you married for because a man raped you and you couldn't.
Yeah, but what sense is that to support that? There's no census that supports that.
No, it's not a census. It's rather the writings and all of the historical documents we have literally conveys that the culture of in many parts of the world was that a woman's virginity was currency. It wasn't something of her virtue, really. It was just currency for other things. Like we could look at so many different examples to see that like the world is not coming from a beautiful place when it comes to this topic. We're coming to a better place now, but we're still at a bad place. But again, like I said to your question, I would say the curse is not lifted when you look at the fact that we're generally still dealing with the same issue all these years later. However, I would say, yes, it has been lifted or it can be lifted because when you read in the New Testament, it literally says this does not apply simply if you change your mindset. So that, in my opinion, would at least offer the option that maybe this wasn't a curse, but rather something influenced over mankind as a result of what they did. And then over time, they came to understand what Jesus was talking about. And then the world started to change a little bit. But here's the problem with the Jesus narrative, right? Not that that's a problem with what he said, but the narrative, the problem is this. If Jesus is essentially saying you can lift God's curse just by not wanting it to be there, what's a curse?
What is a curse?
If curse is lifted by you just not wanting it to be there. What is a curse? Like I have to really understand that because again, you noticed I said, is this curse something that is genetically tied to us because it's something passed down as the Bible relays sin is passed down, right? Or the nature of sin nature is passed down because you're human, your genetics. Is this the same way? Could it be argued that yes, I would believe it can be because we're still dealing with it. Obviously, that's the proof of it. But
because it also says in the Bible as far as how curse clings to the rebellious or the sinner. So when you know how women rebels, and that curse
women rebel like
and that curse clings. Well, and to men too. I'm just joking, but yeah, to men too. So yes, as time go on, and most of the laws that you break, yes, that curse do cleanse. But when you're not rebellious and walk upright, I'm gonna put it in a worldly term, walk upright and righteous, what that is clinging will leave from you by the path that you walk.
Here's the thing. Why wasn't that the case with Adam and his spouse then? I mean, I'm sure after that they cleaned their act up.
Oh, okay, yes, there was. I mean, what did they do after that?
That's the question I want to know. What did they do after that?
All right. What did they? Matter of fact, it goes into it in the apocrypha.
Yeah, it does.
How they went in as far as because they felt bad. She felt bad. Look at the things that he was doing and he was going through. He was feeling. I mean, he was going through a depression mode, the way it's described, and she felt bad because he kept killing himself. So
okay, look. Okay, now see, I hate debating the apocrypha versus the Bible because you know how people gonna feel. Okay, and this is for the people watching this 1,000 years from now. Okay, sorry ahead of time. Here's the thing with that narrative, right? If Adam and his spouse were equals, right, to which he didn't rule over her, but they were in balance without him ruling over her. If he felt bad about all of this after the curse, technically, how is he cursed? Because he's not trying to rule over her. He's not trying to not love her. He's not trying to not reciprocate. However, he's having a mental breakdown that has nothing to do with her. And she's witnessing this. But him wanting to kill himself or do whatever the case may be, that's not her problem. That's his problem dealing with whatever this is that he's dealing with, right?
Right. Well, he had a problem with it because the curse was that like what you said, when they left the Garden of Eden, the things that he was going through here on earth that he wasn't used to it,
Mm-hmm.
and how nice it was in a garden. If the way the story goes, he couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle it, and
Mm-hmm.
and was depressed,
Well,
and
okay, let's
she
stop
felt
there
bad
with
too.
the depression. He was depressed over that, according to the Apocrypha, and I can believe that. But the Bible says he was depressed before that while he was in the garden.
Okay, before what he sinned?
No, no, no. Yeah, before the sin, before his spouse was created, he was depressed, and he was depressed to the point where animals, as I mentioned before, was tried in terms of being a partner with him. Okay, whatever that means. Um, and that didn't work. So therefore, a woman had to be created because of his depression.
Oh, so you saying, so when you said depressed, are you saying that it was he felt overwhelmed when he was doing the work in the garden, that he needed help,
Well,
and the
well,
Lord seen that, and the
no,
Lord seen that. So you
here's,
saying,
here's the thing, right? I can't say specifically because of the context, right? But I'll say this one thing I can derive from that is that the Bible skips, meaning it says, I created him, I gave him a task, right? And then it skips his life to the point where now suddenly there's a problem because he's lonely, he's depressed, there's a problem. We don't understand why there's a problem. All I can tell is if you're lonely, it's because you have a natural inclination that something is missing, which means however you were created, whatever you were created to do, you were naturally, you still had that inclination to have a spouse, but because he wasn't created to have a spouse, this means that it sounds experimental with him. Like, and if you read the Quran, it definitely starts sounding experimental because it says that, Allah created Adam to be a representative on earth. And when the high council spoke to Allah, they said, listen, don't do that because you're going to cause a problem on the planet if you do that. He like, look, I know what I'm doing. Now, mind you, look where we at. Okay, never mind.
well, I could see that. I could see that the interpretation when you say an experiment going on, because they said they said God, the Lord brought animals to Adam to see what he will do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so yeah, I could see that interpretation. So wait, huh?
It's kind of experimental, but the problem is what's the implications of that experiment? Meaning, if God is experimenting, as the
Mm-hmm.
Bible further went on to say, God regretted creating mankind, right? If
Mm-hmm.
God is experimenting, right? What that
Mm-hmm.
means is God said, I'm gonna create all natural things on this planet, right? Male and female. But there's something specific I want to
You keep saying male
male
and
in
female.
terms of
That's
animals.
something that's something different. So we ain't going
So
into that.
I'm talking about
We
male
go.
and female in terms of animals. God created all the
Oh,
animals,
okay,
male and
okay,
female. But when it
okay.
comes to
Animals.
mankind, God is like, I don't want mankind to be the male and female circumstance. I have a specific task for them, and they don't need the female gender. I only need the male gender for the task I'm given. That's what's
Wait a minute. So wait a minute. Wait a minute. Male and female, because I was thinking about, and you said you only apply male and female to animals.
No, no,
That's
I'm
it.
not saying that that's applied there. The Bible indicates that when creation happened and the world and species were put on the planet, there's an implication in the Bible that there was male and female animals on the planet reproducing themselves. However, when Adam was created, right, he wasn't created in the sense of the nature of creation, meaning male and female was created because it seems like he was not created to be a reproducing thing. That's
But
not what
male and female was humans were created.
no. I didn't know. Follow me back. What I'm saying is, when Adam came along, according to the story, right, there was the concept of male and female already existed in nature.
No,
However,
no, no, no. I'm saying is it's a separate thing. It was
no, I'm not
Adam.
saying it's not. I am trying to keep it separate, but notice what I'm saying. There was a concept of male and female in nature already reproducing themselves when he was created. Period. There was already animals here when he was created. So it's not like God forgot or God didn't have male and female in nature before. No, that's not what happened. When Adam was created, he was created by himself because God didn't need the female gender for him to do what he was called to do. Meaning, whatever his task was, reproducing was not part of it. Or
no, but I'm saying no. I'm saying this because we lost each other now.
Mm-hmm.
When Adam was created, okay,
Mm-hmm.
but before Adam was created, male and female humans were created. Do you agree on that?
I'm gonna say this. The jury is out on that, but regardless of the verdict right now, because there's so much contention over that topic, I'm just going to speak as if we're talking about the very first.
That's why I said let's separate that because we're dealing with Adam.
Right.
But we still know that male and female humans were created, but we're not talking about them. We're talking about the human side, as you said, as far as dealing with Adam.
Right. He was created.
Okay. I got it. Okay.
Purpose.
I just want to be clear.
Right.
Okay.
He
go
was
ahead.
created for a purpose, but his purpose didn't include a woman. That's
at that time. Okay.
Right. The only reason why woman came in, as I read in the verse, is because he was lonely, and when the experiment didn't work with the animals to be a helper to him, that's when it's like, okay, give him what everybody else got so that he can stop being lonely. And you feel me?
But it doesn't go with it's now. These are assumptions that you're having.
No. I read the verse. That's not my
okay. We'll go. Let me go refresh my memory then.
Refresh your
with the let me see this interpretation that you get.
Okay.
Going into the details.
I was reading from the New International Version. Okay. Okay. So in Genesis 2:20, it generally says, "So the man gave names to all the livestock, the birds in the sky, and all the wild animals. But for Adam, no suitable helper was found." You understand?
Okay, I see. Okay.
And then the next thing is, so what the Lord God did was cause him to go to sleep and then say, you know what, I'm gonna take this and do this and this and give you a woman.
But you said you so no suitable helper. And you believe since that is said that Adam was in a depressed mode.
Let me go back one more. Hold on. No, not one more. Two more. Genesis 2:18 says, "The Lord God said, it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him."
So you believe, right? Okay. So do you believe when he did that Adam was depressed?
Here's the thing. Read it. If you read the story in succession, okay, he was given a task. He was in the garden already. And keep in mind, he was made from from earth, not from the earth in the garden. Like, he was made from planet Earth, put in the garden for a purpose, right? He on his purpose at this point. He been given directions. He on his purpose. He is not with a female. His purpose.
Well, I know he wasn't. I know he wasn't. But my question is that you didn't answer. Don't let me come to this. Oh, okay. Because I was about to come to the computer. I was about to come to the computer.
I want you to follow it, because if you don't follow the story, you won't see what I'm.
Okay, go ahead.
He's on his purpose, and his purpose does not include procreation. Okay. The only reason why procreation is coming up is because God is saying something isn't good right now, after everything is done being created. And what did God create that wasn't good? You understand? But somehow right now with Adam, not with any other species, with Adam, it's not good for him to be alone. So basically, if I'm going to read this correctly, God did something and said, oops, man, that ain't right. I gotta fix some shit. That's not the nature of creation, period. Like I know that's not what happened, okay? Like,
how do you know?
Nature.
First of all, you said
the nature of nature is to procreate. That is the nature.
So how do you know? How do you know that he wasn't able to procreate without a woman?
Look at the context. It's
no.
not
I'm
good
saying,
for the man to be alone.
Yes, I know that.
The problem is if it was good for him to have
right. But I'm asking you. but I'm asking you, where in there that shows that he is depressed, and where in there that it shows that he could not procreate without a woman?
No, I'm not saying he didn't have the physical like penis and like.
No, I'm not saying. I'm not saying that. I'm not talking about natural. I'm not talking about between flesh and flesh. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about, how do you know he was not able to procreate without a woman?
My argument is not he was not able to procreate. What I'm saying is he was not created to do that. That's not what he was created.
How do you know that?
Because it literally says here he was created and then given a task, and then he was on his task, and then sometime after that it was decided something isn't good.
Yes, it's something. I know that right there, but how do you know when he gave him the task? How do you know he was not able to do the task as far as procreate without a woman?
You're asking me, how do I know he wasn't able to do it without a woman?
Right.
No, I'm not making that argument at all. What I'm saying is he obviously he was given a woman, so he was given a woman, so he.
No, but he could have. I'm saying he could have procreate without a woman.
No. And here's the problem. Now, here's the real issue with where you going with that. What I'm saying is this: according to the Bible, how he came about, however Adam came about, was a procreative process. It was, whether it was natural or not. Okay, that was a procreative process. So therefore, you don't need a female human, to have Adam. You don't, because that's not how Adam came about. Period. You don't need a female that. So if you can create Adam without a female, you can create 6 Adams without a female. And if you create 6 Adams without a female, you can create 66 billion without a female. Okay, that's just how that goes. Now, I'm not saying that is how it's supposed to go, but that's how it went here. So when we look at God saying this is, because we're not hearing Adam's point of view. We're not hearing what he was doing when it settled down on him, and then God noticed that the man was having issues, and then God said, yeah, something ain't good about what's going on. He lonely. The word alone indicates that he is doing something, and whatever he's doing, he can't be doing it alone. However, he was put in that garden alone. He was told to do it alone. And then after that, it ain't good for him to be alone. Well, why is it penguins got spouses?
Why is it what? Why is it
for them to be alone? But you didn't do that for Adam. My thing is this: based on the timing of this story, like when things happen, and then later on when you see like the ramifications of said thing, you can clearly tell that Adam was an experiment. Okay, and I'm with you. I truly believe there was other human beings, right? But Adam was an experiment, and he was an experiment that came about in an unnatural way, to which, a female was not produced at the same time as him because it wasn't needed at the same time. It just wasn't. So therefore, if we're going to call a spade, okay, are females needed for procreation, given Adam was not born of a female? But there were other people on the planet.
I don't want to get into, it was other people on the planet, but that's going to go, it was other people, but I'm going to keep that separate. But I'm saying is, yes, he was, you could say he's an experiment due to the way the context is. And I'm saying is, you don't know exactly that he was depressed. You're assuming that.
I'm only making a safe assumption that he was
depressed. Right, he was depressed.
Alone, it means that there was a need for a companion. And the issue is, in the very next verse, it says animals was tried and it didn't work.
Right. Okay. But still, that still does it. You making it safer.
They were trying to remedy the problem, and it didn't work. Literally.
Okay. No problem. I got you. No problem. It didn't work, but still, it still does not mean that he was depressed. That's your assumption, because
how if he had the inclination to have a spouse, because he's
there like, you go with the if. You said if he has it. You said if he has it. If he has a what you say?
Well, I was gonna
Inclination.
make both. I was gonna make both arguments of if he had the inclination to, procreate, or if he didn't have the inclination to procreate. My point still stands that when it comes to a spouse or a helper, right? Animals was tried as if to say the things women can do, animals can do, and we know that's not
No,
true.
no, but I could see. We don't know. Actually, we don't know because there's a lot of things missing within the story. He
Correct.
was just go with the experiment. Now you could say depressed. Someone else could be saying that God is teaching him, and as time going on, he is teaching him so he may learn because he wanted Adam this experiment for mankind to rely on him. Okay,
That's two
now.
two different conversations.
Right. Exactly. And I'm saying that we don't actually know. What because you implied that he was depressed. We don't actually know. Could he be? Yes, he could be. We don't know because we're not in his feelings. We're not in his body. We don't know. You could
Well,
say he was depressed. And I'm saying, and someone else can say God was just doing things with him as
experiment.
a test, like you said, doing things with them as a test to see how he will perform.
Well, the question is, Vaughn, if you take the position that God is testing Adam, right? When God already knows that man needs woman, woman need man, and God made them to need each other in certain ways, right? God is testing to see. God can't be testing to see if he needs a woman. Like God already created things to male to need female.
So you
There's
believe
another
that? So
going
you
on.
believe that one he was going to was God? You believe that is God?
No, I'm only using the word God to be kind of politically correct. I'm of a different persuasion. My thing is this: I don't just read the biblical narrative. I compare the biblical narrative to the source that it actually came from.
But you still believe that is God?
No, I'm not saying this is God. I don't believe that this word God or Elohim is the quote unquote creator of the universe. That which is
Okay. But
I,
now that has to be established when having this conversation because that means a lot.
okay, I will give you that it does mean a lot. But the reason
Mhm.
why I don't want to go too far into that is because if we start establishing that, this word God, English word God, to this Jewish or Hebraic term or
Mhm.
Akkadian term Elohim, what that means, what will be essentially saying is, well, we'll be arguing, is this word God representative of what, let's say, Jesus was talking about, or
Mhm.
is it representative of an actual being that is not? It's a whole different conversation.
Well, yeah, I got you, but it's we don't have to go into it because, like you said, you're right. It'll go to
To go
like a
kind of
far left or far right, but it's at least we know that it's there and it's established because that does mean a lot. Just in case we add to this later on or whenever we add to this discussion
yeah.
and build off of it. That needs to be established because that's a very important.
Right. And like I'll say this to the point, for instance, like when you compare this whole creation into other creation myths, there's like certain key buzzwords that are the same. Like for instance, the word help, right?
Uh-huh.
Adam needed a helper.
Okay.
God, Elohim needed to rest, for
Okay.
instance, right? On the
Right.
sixth, seventh day.
Right.
In the other creation myth, right? The physical being that created mankind, right, needed to rest.
Right.
That's why he created. So you see, there's a continuity of the word rest. There's a continuity of certain words throughout
Mhm.
all of these stories. So my thing is, the truth is somewhere in the middle. That's me personally, right? But I'm not arguing my personal
Yeah, you
issue.
freezing up. You breaking up.
Not three, four.
You breaking up. You
If
breaking up, Lola.
you're a man, woman,
You breaking up. Yeah, your picture is frozen now.
yeah,
Okay. Picture you're still frozen.
Okay, give me a sec. Hold on. Hold on.
What's up, Vaughn and Eric?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Nothing much, man. How you guys doing?
Doing all right? Doing good? How you doing today?
Oh man, I'm doing good, man. Just a little tired, you know.
Oh, okay. Had a hard day today working.
Oh yeah, man. That's always, man. So I feel like heading over to the sleep train. Get that better night's sleep.
I understand that. Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely understand that.
Man.
So how the family going?
Oh, family's doing pretty good. Thank you for asking. And how's yours?
Oh, doing good. Yeah. Oh, it's a blessing. So,
Oh
yeah,
man, that's
doing
good.
good.
Hey, as long as everyone's alive and kicking well, man, that's a good blessing.
Oh, yeah, that is very true, man. Even though we have a lot of things that's going on in the world, different situations and stuff like that, it's still a good day to be alive and see another day, another morning.
Yeah, no, man. Hey, I heard that. That's definitely true. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
especially spending time with family.
oh yeah, 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 definitely, no doubt. I'm assuming Laura's having some technical issues on her end.
Yeah, she was freezing and uh, breaking up, and then I think she was went out to come back. Oh, there she go.
Hey, can
There
you
we
guys
go.
hear me?
Everybody's alive. Yep, yep.
Okay, I'm back. I always have to have my three backups.
That's because that computer of yours was saying, you know what, you need to
Listen,
stop playing.
leave me alone. First of all, this is not even really my computer. Okay, I got two Macs. This is not
Okay, I
It's a,
got you. Well, whenever they keep messed up, they say you sitting up there talking a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff sitting up there talking a lot of stuff. Let me break you on up.
listen. Well, here's the thing. At least I'm being respectful because I'm not going in on some of the conversations, as you know, I can go in on and take this far left. Okay, I ain't even
Oh,
doing that. I'm sticking to whatever it say right here, and I'm asking a fundamental question: are women really needed for procreation, given what we believe in terms of how humans, and meaning Adam, came into being? Like, are we really needed in that way? Yes or no? That's
In
one.
what way? When you say procreation, what way? What way?
What I'm saying is this, right? Remember, I said earlier that I truly believe that everything that's happening has happened before. Right now, we're moving into the era of men feeling that they don't need women to have children. They don't. They,
Oh, okay.
they can artificially procreate themselves, meaning other males. They don't need females to procreate with, right? Now,
Right.
from a
And
technological
that door swings both ways too, though,
right,
right?
it does. But from a technological standpoint, right, we're moving to the point, strangely, where that might be a reality, right? It might be.
Okay.
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 But here's my thing. My issue isn't so much, well, is that a reality or not? My issue is, where does this come from? Where in our history, in our genetic memory, is this coming from? And when I turn back to the pages of the beginning, according to our stories, right, of ourselves, which is the Bible, the New Middle East, these different types of stories, what I see is the same thing, which is males, being produced without females. That's what I see. Now, it might be for a different reason, obviously, but I see the same pattern. Now,
Well, what men that's being produced without female? What men are you talking about?
Adam was an experiment.
No, I'm talking about in this day of time, because you
In
said
this day and time, in this day and time, I done heard men literally saying that they don't want children with women. They want children born in artificial wombs. I've seen some of the videos
okay.
like that. I've seen the women saying the same thing, like as far as that technology is concerned. I've even seen them saying that we would rather have surrogates, which is still needing a woman. However, now they're talking about putting wombs in other men and having men carry male babies. Listen, it's getting quite weird out here.
Okay? I
Mhm.
think I've seen that.
Yeah. I don't even want to think about like how weird this is getting. However, my concern is, where does this come from? Because to me, as a researcher, I don't necessarily look at an issue and say, okay, this is an issue. I look at the root cause of it. Where is the root of this issue? And the root of this issue, for at least for me on paper, okay, is stemming from our genetic memory of how we came to be. And the earliest memories we have is what's in these books. And what's in these books is the first male wasn't born of a female. Period. And it wasn't even like that. And here's the thing, like you said, we could prove that there was other species, male and female humanoid species, I should say the humanoid species, that were producing already. However, a male, not another female, a male was produced without a female. So that means wherever his body was growing at as a baby, or wherever his body was created at as a human, as an adult human being on some avatar shit, whatever did that can do that. Period. It can do that over again if it can do that. Thus, if we're here now, a trillion years later, still arguing over the fact that men don't want children, they want to be able to exist without a woman, right? It kind of still goes back to this fundamental question of ruling over the woman and their inclination to return to their origin, which might be not necessarily needing a woman to reproduce with. And I'll be honest, it was sparked in me to cover this when I heard Kevin Samuels talk about this. Okay.
So you saying, let me get this straight. So you saying basically, and to see if you agree, that the Lord made a mistake. And the reason why he did is because when he started out, when it came to creation, especially with Adam, by him not having the woman at that moment, he started a gene presence that's in us and carried on within us by Adam, and to make us feel that we don't need a woman due to what he started off at the beginning with Adam.
I'll say this, I'll agree to the extent that I don't feel that God, at least in the story, made a mistake. I feel that is just the nature of nature.
Okay, let me take that out there. Let's take the
what happened.
Okay, let's take the mistake.
That's not a mistake per se. That is
I got you.
Nature remembering what happened.
That's just something that occurred. Okay, I got you. Let's take the mistake out.
Yeah,
by God. Okay, I got you.
And even with saying that it's on purpose, it has deeper implications. That was on purpose.
I got you.
The story it seemed to be on purpose too.
Okay, so by God doing that, right at the beginning, that carried on within our genes all the way up to the day, even when it comes to the sin part. Matter of fact, that right there had something to do with even with the sin when she sinned, the first one to sin, and that carried on. That and the sin piled together, coming together, carried on from generations and generations, all the way up to the day when we feel that we don't need a woman, and on the other side, when a woman feels she don't need a man.
Well, keep in mind we come from men, so the genetic memory in the men is also in us. It's not the other way around.
So
It's
okay, I got you. I got you.
yeah.
So
So
that okay. That's I see where you're going.
right.
That memory that started off that okay because man and female, man and woman come together as one flesh. So yeah, I see what you're saying.
Right.
It that Adam right there, as far as the principle, is also in the woman due to they one flesh together. So that thinking is actually the man's thing. I got you. I got you.
Yeah,
So
and that's not to say anything bad about like the genetics of women. However, according to the story, our genetics is born from male genetics. Period. Like,
okay, so you're saying this is what has come to today and how we are today due to where it started at the beginning. Now,
it seems that there's several things running in our DNA according to the Bible and other creation myths.
yeah,
It's
that's true. I
several
got
things
you.
running in our DNA, and the quote unquote phrase "sin nature" is just a euphemism
Right.
for a larger pool of words that we kind of sum down into a couple words and say, okay, sin nature. But that's more than just the ability to do something. It's an array of things. So that's what I'm saying. Like all this seems to be genetic because if it's not genetic, then how does it affect every single person on the planet?
Well, we don't know every single person on the planet to know
Every
that
single
it
person on
affects
the
it.
planet has a sin nature. Every single person on the planet.
Oh, but we talking about but yes, we do have sin natures due to what's in our flesh, but we talking about the particular what you're focusing on,
Right.
right?
Well,
Okay,
what I'm
but we
focusing on
don't
is
know that
nothing
we
outside
don't
of
know,
nature.
huh?
What I'm focusing on is nothing outside of nature because
No,
essentially,
but I'm talking about you is focusing on a particular
mhm.
when we say as far as man do not feel as though they don't need a woman. That's a gene or a sin nature within man that you
Mhm.
describe
Mhm.
that but it's a particular one.
Right. It's
Okay.
particular.
Now,
It's
but
particular.
all of them, everybody don't feel that way because you don't.
Well, here's the thing. I don't individually feel that way,
Right.
right?
Okay. Okay.
However, as a greater society, right? Because I'm an outlier. I'm an outlier. The greater society doesn't feel that way. And keep in mind,
When you say greater Lola, when you say greater society, what are you speaking
meaning
about?
most people, okay? Most
But you
people.
don't know. Wait, okay, so what? Do you know the census on that then?
Let me tell you this, right? When you look at where the world is coming from, when
Hmm.
it comes to women being oppressed and or vice versa, okay?
Hmm.
Either side, from a large standpoint in the world, historically, we're coming from a place where men and women were literally enemies to one another and only dealing with each other because essentially they had to. And even then, it was on some old domestic violence stuff. Like, really, like in most circumstances, that's what it was. And when I say that it seems to be a correlation between the problems we face at large and this first story about men and women having a problem, but it was purposely put into us, it tells me that something is going on that has a connection to that. And the only thing that we could possibly connect it to is our physicality because it's not affecting deer. It's not affecting elephants. It's not affecting no other species but us. Therefore, it has to be with us in our genetic memory.
Well,
Period.
but you said it doesn't affect animals and things like that. You don't know the
Right.
census on. You don't have the information on it that it doesn't.
No, 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 no. See, that's a red herring. You can't say, well, because you don't have a census on elephants that you can't
No,
prove.
I'm talking about animals because women animals rebel against women animals. Have you ever seen a lion? The woman, and they rebel.
No, no, no.
Yeah,
That's not true.
animals rebel just like us.
Animals don't have the right to quote unquote rebel. They have a
Wait a
nature
minute.
that is
You said who told you that? Who told you that?
they're not
They don't
rebelling
have a
out
right
of
to have a right. Who told you
let,
that?
let me tell you something, right? Animals, right? They don't have a conscious nature that they can choose not to be within their own nature because otherwise they would be us. That's the difference
No, no,
between.
no, no, no. But they live in a different. Wait a
But
minute.
what I'm saying is they can't go outside of their nature. They have a nature, like for instance, certain animals are more warm blooded than other ones. That means that their personality traits are going to be different than other ones. That is inset in them. They don't have a choice in that. So what they respond to and how they respond is coded in them to do that, and they can't come outside of that period. They don't have a mind that they can come outside of that. So you can't say, well, they're rebelling, because the word rebel,
not in nature. I'm talking about a woman, a female animal, and a male animal. The female animal rebels against the male, even in animals.
I'm not saying in practice what you don't see is, let's say, fighting, for instance, right? I'm not saying that's not what you don't see. What I'm saying is the word rebel indicates that there's a conscious decision that is going against nature. Animals don't have the capability to do that. They're not like us. You have to be consistent with that. You can't just say
they
are rebelling like we are rebelling. They don't have the same mindset. They don't have the same psyche that we have. So the word rebel isn't what you're looking at. For instance, you know how the LGBTQ plus community says that they find that in nature, right? Okay, what you're looking at when you see two male animals doing might not necessarily be what you think it is. And different animals do different things, and they have different natures.
But so that means you can't say that. That means if you can't get in there to understand what they're doing, then you can't say anything as far as, oh, animals cannot do this or can do that.
No, I'm not judging their individual natures. What I am saying,
I'm not judging. No, don't go to judging. You just said we cannot, as far as you cannot be in the animal's head. You're not in their head to understand what they. Yes, you. Then you're making an observation on actions.
No. There's more empirical data that animals do not have the same psychological nature.
No. We're not talking psychological. That's when it comes to what?
You're saying the word. What I'm telling you is the word rebel. Okay, from the context you're using it in, that humans rebel is not the same context that animals are acting in when they are.
But how do you know if you're not in? How do you know that if you're not in their head?
It's a difference in terms of their psyche of how they react.
But how do you know if you're not in their head?
It's not. You don't have to be in a. For instance, mice are not in snakes' heads, right? Mice don't live in snakes' heads, correct?
No, they don't.
They don't. But in nature, you'll see a mouse understand the limitations of a snake and utilize it against.
But by you not in their head, how do you know as far as what they thinking, as far as their limitations? You go about their actions. You go about their performance.
But hold on. What I'm trying to show you is that in nature, there's a hierarchy of knowing that what is beneath you is beneath you without you having to, quote unquote, be in something else's head.
Thank you. And that occurred. And thank you. Right there. Thank you. Listen to what you just said.
Listen to me. A mouse can understand that a snake does not have the same psychological nature as it without it being in a snake's head.
But you said limitations. You said limitations.
My point to you is that no matter what verbiage you use to separate, the point is that we understand there's a separation, a degree of separation between our response and an animal's reaction to stimuli. We have the ability to choose how we respond and why. They don't. They are purely acting out of a concept that we have the ability not to act out of.
No, you don't know that because you're going by observation. But you just said that they have the animal have limitations. Know their limitations. That's also in humans. So you just proved that
I'm not arguing.
But hold up, you're talking about different degree of limitation. The point is limitation. Just on that, you said an animal knows, just like humans know. Now, if you're going by different degrees,
I think you heard me wrong, because I'm not saying that animals know as humans know. What I'm saying is that the concept of understanding that which is beneath you psychologically exists throughout nature.
Right. That's so. And we nature in humans, nature of animals. That's what I'm saying. So that right there, that core right there is the same. Huh?
You said that humans rebel like animals rebel. What I'm
I
saying is
said both
animals
of. I said
rebel.
rebellion. Yes, and the female animal does rebel against a male animal. That is seen all the
A
time. Now,
female
as
does
far
not.
as
A
oh,
female
okay,
animal does not rebel against a
okay,
male animal. What the female is doing is reacting to stimuli the way she's supposed to. In humans, that's not the same case.
that's and that does the same thing. A woman is reacting of what she or a man is reacting of what they supposed to, what they feel, what they supposed to do.
Are you telling me that human beings are doing what they're supposed to be doing?
I said they're reacting on what they feel,
Is that
what
what
they
they're
supposed
supposed
to
to be
do.
doing?
Hey, if they feel that way, they
Let me ask
react
you
off
something
of
about
what they
human
feel.
feelings. Let me ask you something about human feelings. Are you saying that what we're experiencing right now in 2022 in terms of human feelings is natural?
Yeah, it's natural. Yeah, yeah.
You really
What
making
is
that
it?
argument? You really making that argument, Vaughn, that these
Yes,
humans?
it's a natural instinct that occurs in you, just like it's a just okay. If it's not
I
natural,
think
it's
you.
just let me show you something that we do.
Yeah, no.
We procreate. You with a male and a female, they get together, right? And some of even in animals, they know if they're going to be together, or the female might not accept the male. That is done in animals and in humans.
Well, no, I think you missed what I was trying to suggest to you, right? What I'm suggesting to
Here you
you
go.
is humans, my premise is humans are not natural species, period, right? So thus they act in unnatural ways because they're not a natural species. You can find threads of natural actions in them, but they're not a natural
Oh, where
species.
we go?
Hold
I
on,
go.
hold on, hold on. The issue is this. You said, well, human feelings, right, are natural. And I can tell you a man being sexually stimulated by an infant is not natural, even though it's a human feeling and a human, okay, is in nature. That's not natural. So my point is, I'm not making an estimation based on human feeling. I'm not making an estimation based on what we don't experience, because this is the only way that we judge things. What I'm saying is that at the end of the day, our nature, the way we operate, is indicative, okay, of the fact that something is wrong. And whether or not it's wrong because we're cursed, whether or not it's wrong because something's running in our DNA that we cannot undo, whether or not it's something's wrong because maybe, I don't know, this is not really a curse here. Maybe it's influenced from something else, and therefore it can, like you said earlier, it can be lifted. However the case may be, something's going on, because it seems like, we still having a male female issue, which is unnatural, period, on this planet. You're
Oh,
saying,
we
well,
got them.
hold on, you're saying females rebel against males all the time. But here's the thing: if you try to fight me, Vaughn, my nature says I should protect myself. That's not me being in rebellion. The word rebellion has a different connotation than protecting one's life. That's
No,
not the
that's
same
different.
thing.
That's rebellion it's a broad statement and is used in different ways. I'm just saying it occurs in not just in human now, but in animals too. But
Listen, your
nature, as
cat
far as
rebelling against
natural,
you does not constitute rebellion.
what you say?
I
Well,
said your
when it
cat
comes to
rebelling against you is
nature,
not
when it
that.
comes okay, when it comes to nature, you're describing it in different ways, and that's going to go by what your interpretation and what interpretation that we decide on. Because
I mean,
that's a
we
broad
can't, we
that is a
can't
broad
decide. Yeah,
no,
that's
but
true.
that's okay. So that's a broad statement. So, and in all aspect of it can be right. So
Right,
you
right,
what you're doing is pinpointing certain parts within it to
correct,
make an argument. So
right.
that is
Because if you keep it too broad, right, you'll always have the problem, and you'll never be able to face any type of solution if you keep everything broad. Like if we say, broadly speaking, women are good. Broadly speaking, men are angels. We will dissolve or devolve into savages, and we probably won't even have a planet left if we keep on generally saying people are good, people are doing no wrong, generally speaking. Like, you see how that's dangerous just in and of itself. My
But then
thing,
that means that means you have to go by individual cases. You can't say, well, most
that's
of the
what, we,
people and most of the thing. You have to
that's
go
what
by
I'm trying to
individual
do.
cases.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Wait a minute. And then when I said about you, and I was saying individual, you was like, nah.
No,
And
no,
then when I said, do you know everybody?
I didn't deny
Nah.
what you said. I didn't deny it. What I said was people like me, in terms of what you spoke of, we are outliers, meaning the exceptions to the rule don't make the rule. It does exist, but it's not the rule or the rule, as they say.
But that depends on what society that depends on what society that you living in. You haven't been all over the world. You don't
I've
know
been
every
over
town,
the world
every
enough
no.
to see
No,
enough.
no. You haven't been all over the world as far as in different jungles, different municipalities, different things. You haven't been all over the world.
I have.
Oh, okay.
And what I'm saying is, you don't need to go to every square inch of the planet to see that there's a history going on that's shared amongst all human beings. There's a genetic history that's being shared amongst all human beings, and and the way we physically see it is in the general attitudes of the general population. Like,
But
you can't deny it.
you talking about a general population. You have not been all over the world
All
to
over the world
see
has
and take a census to see. So you've been to the Himalayas?
I've studied the Himalayas, yes.
But have you been?
No, I haven't been. It's cold.
Okay, so Debbie, you going past, and what's the study that you studied when you was at the Himalayas?
This was during my undergrad, in which I had to give a dissertation on the culture.
Okay, so what's the culture?
What do you mean? It's a lot that goes into it. What do you mean?
What is it? Name it.
What do you mean?
How do they treat the women in the Himalayas? And what the women do?
In the Himalayas?
Yeah.
In not in modern times, are you speaking correct?
You know what?
Because there's a vast difference.
Me and you about to.
No, there's a difference between how, let's say, women were treated.
Okay.
1,200 years
you say
ago.
moderate time. Let's just go the whole time right here to now, to your history, to it is now. How women are treated.
Women have been subjugated, at least in that culture, since at least the 3 centuries BC. They've been subjugated. In that culture, sex has been sort of like the European culture, sort of. But keep in mind that culture has been influenced by European culture too. It's been influenced by other cultures.
In what way?
Just general, like there's been contact by them and other cultures over time. So you can't.
Right, okay, so what way has they changed?
That they are still the same or not, but you do know they've had contact with other cultures that.
Right, I know that, but how when they contacted, where was the change specifically? What was the change?
Specifically, at least from what I've read, okay, that those people had their own, let's say, currency system when it came to, for instance, women's virginity, right? In that culture, virginity per se was not as valuable, right, as the sheer number of females that you had in that society, because they had a depletion of it, at least at some point. So it was slightly different. But when they did come in contact with them, things obviously changed.
Okay, to change that, see, you have to be specific. The change that came, how are women today are treated in the Himalayas?
What happens over time? And that's the thing. Okay, because what I'm saying is every culture has went through a morphology in a better sense of going from extreme savagery in terms of how they treat each other, how they treat other cultures, their view on what is human and what is not human. We're coming from a bad place, okay? That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. There's no culture that is literally an angel that has done everything right and done nothing wrong and has never shared.
I didn't say that.
Well, I didn't say.
You're not answering the question, Lola.
I'm not saying you're saying, but what you're doing is trying to grab out, let's say, this one small culture for me to show that, listen, there was a difference in how they treated their women, specifically just the women, from, let's say, 1200 BC to 2022 AD. There's a difference. Meanwhile, if you go over there, you still see the remnants of 1200.
That's okay. I understand you. See,
regardless of who is wearing what, we have a fundamental problem that is not stuck in Europe or in the Americas.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, as far as what you said, because I said it depends on the social construction society that you're in, right? The census changes. So when you say yes, depends on the social society that you're in and the claim that you're making, the census changes.
Just because you have a bit doesn't negate the fact that
how do you do? Have you been all over the world to every land and every culture and you haven't. So you just go about observation.
And you making in 2022, I can be in Seoul, China right now via my computer, like live right now via my computer. I don't and see what's going on over there without being there. That's how we actually communicate now in 2020.
Right, I understand that, so but that still doesn't tell you. It still doesn't tell you the culture. Yeah, but you talking about. I'm glad you brought that up as far as China, because that area right there was European influence. That part right there, Hong Kong, was European influence. Matter of fact, the lease was just up a couple of years, the 99-year lease. That's different. But do you know the culture outside of that? Like for Sean.
It's been recorded. They've recorded their own culture in their own.
No. Oh, I'm saying as far as the society, how it is today, what you trying to bring about, have you been there to study that, to know that culture?
I've never been to Seoul, Korea to study that culture. I haven't studied every single culture on the planet, but I've seen enough all over the world to see that we're fundamentally, not specifically, but fundamentally dealing with the same issue.
Okay, go ahead, continue.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. When you talk about the problem with women, right? The problem we're finding with women is that women feel that they're not essentially compatible with men, meaning this. Women feel the world, right? We communicate with each other quite well because we all feel the world, right? But when we try to communicate with men, suddenly there's a problem. When you look into nature, you don't see them problems. You just don't. Trees don't miscommunicate with the ground. Squirrels don't miscommunicate with each other. Worms don't miscommunicate. Amphibians don't miscommunicate with each other. Like there's no miscommunication. Even damn snakes, they don't miscommunicate with each other, and they not even really trying. So it's you know.
I can't. I'll let you go with that because I guess you're an animal studier and study animals' minds and in it. Okay. So,
but what I am saying is that wasn't my core study. But what I am saying is that there is fundamentally something going on with humans. And when I look across the world and I say, well, where is all this stemming from? There's no central place for me to say, well, it's coming from this specific place. Like it's just no one specific place. So if that is not an option, the only option is coming from within us. What is in us that causes us as a species to literally be the very catalyst for our own death just because we exist? Like, where does that come from? We have.
I think you said obviously you brought up Genesis and what they did. It came and it stemmed from that. And you said as far as what God did when He started, that's where it stems from. That's where the core comes from.
Let me ask you this, right? Remember we said earlier that the curse on Eve was like multifaceted, right? If one of those curses can be lifted, right, just by, like you said, walking in the right direction as far as like your life and your mindset, right? What about the other two?
The other two what?
The other curses? Two parts of it.
The other two curses?
Yeah, that came along with it.
What about them as far as are they lifted or are they still clinging?
Well, that too, but and can it be lifted under?
Well, yeah, yes, yes. You're a witness of one because you said you don't think that way.
But
So
and
is it
so right. So what I'm
okay,
saying
so
is,
since you don't think that way, and other people that doesn't think that way, that part of the curse, that particular curse, is lifted.
and here's
And if it's clinging, let's just say if it's clinging to you, it doesn't control your thought pattern that will cause you to rebel against a male.
well, here's the problem. If that can be fixed, right, and that is equally a curse as the childbirthing, as everything else, right, and the part about the whole heel part and the whole snake and bashing that part of as far as Satan is concerned. If one part of it can be lifted, then the other parts can be lifted too. But the problem is when we look at the other parts, we're looking at something more concrete, meaning you're talking about childbirth. Okay. Like, unless you're talking about another intervention, okay, technically, are we lifting a curse because we have numbing medication? If this is truly a curse, are we lifting it simply because we have numbing medication so that we won't feel what's actually happening? No. Curse is still there. So we're not really doing anything. Doesn't matter what
yeah, okay. The curse is still there, but does the curse have you in a controlled state that will cause you to do what you're saying or what you're observing within the society that we live in? Does that curse take control of you, or do you allow it to take control of you by your free will to do things in a rebellious way against
no, you're making it about 1/3 of the issue, which is the issue of, and here's the thing, rebellion is not part of the curse. Like, if you read the Bible carefully, it does not say you're going to rebel against your husband, that's going to be your curse, and he's not going to like you as a result. No, it says you're going to desire him, and the word love is not in the Old Testament, so we can replace the word desire in terms of translation with love or the word affection. You will want to be affectionate towards your husband. You will want to love him. You will desire him. And how is he going to respond to you? He's just going to rule you. That's it. So that has nothing to do with rebelling against him. That right there is a whole nother conversation. So
okay, so but you just asked me, but you asked about a certain one. So now you want to go into the other one?
What I'm saying is you can't separate them. That's what you can't do.
Why can't you?
If you could separate them, then
they came in separation.
It didn't technically come in separation because our curse is our curse.
No. But different curse came in separation, though. Well, it's a curse. The whole thing is a curse, but it's separated as far as the particular curse.
And that's the problem. Either way you take, either position you take on this argument, right? It creates a different problem. Either way, if you go that way and say, okay, a curse, God's curse can't be broken. Now you got a problem, okay? If you say these curses can be lifted, right? You got a different issue. You got it now.
Who said it can't be broken? I never said it couldn't be broken.
No, I'm not saying you said. What I'm saying is one can take either side. You can take either side. Either side you take, you still run into a fundamental issue, whichever side you take. My position on this is essentially we're asking the question of the nature of men. And is the nature of men the way it is because men and women essentially are of the same substance, right? That's a question that I haven't posed. Or is it different because of this curse? Or is it different because at the end of the day, mankind just wasn't created to belong? The man was not created out of the woman. Thus, he has no genetic tie to a female. He wasn't created from a female. He didn't come from a female. He doesn't have a mother. Mindset of father genetics comes from him. Of sure, she might, but now you see there's a problem because you didn't create him the way you created other things. So my thing is this: nothing exists on its own. If
you froze again, you breaking up. You froze again. Yeah, you still breaking up.
Okay.
Yeah, he's still frozen.
Can you hear me though?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, you got a delay, but yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, because I was gonna jump on my phone because my phone seemed to be literally more stable than it seems to be more stable than anything else here. Oh wait, no, I can do it from on the internet. It's okay. Am I still frozen?
No,
I'm not. Okay.
no, you're
Well,
not.
I'll still do it though. What I'm saying is that the issue right now is why are men and women having the problems they're having, right? In terms of getting along, in terms of listening, in terms of understanding how each other think and acting naturally in accordance with how each other is, right? I was asking you, remember the movie Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, one of them. You remember that?
Yeah.
Remember when they were in the movie and they were saying when they created that new dinosaur that they took certain DNA from other dinosaurs and just threw it all in a pot and created something, right? But what they did is they didn't calculate that when you take certain elements of certain things and put it together, because you are a fallible human being, you don't understand. You're not nature itself in totality. You don't understand what you're doing. So when you put certain qualities together, it negates other qualities, right? Because it's just not meant to go together. And what'll happen is an animal will kill, right? For no apparent reason. And that goes against its nature if it's an animal, okay? Like it's certain things that that animal had in terms of its psychological development that the other animals didn't have. And thus it created an imbalance in the ecosystem. So, and that's because these scientists came and just started throwing shit together on some experimental shit because they wanted to make people say, "Oh wow," that dumb stuff. But it was a lesson. Obviously, by the end of the movie, it was a lesson that we shouldn't be fucking with nature. If it doesn't,
When you start cursing, you when did you start cursing? You weren't cursing the whole. Now you start cursing. What you getting upset?
No. But I mean that though. I do mean that. Just simply because we keep getting. When is this popping up on my computer? Okay. We keep getting into these arguments, right? And essentially, nobody's asking the question of fundamentally why are we having this problem? Because nature says a woman should intuitively be able to correspond with a man without thought. Period. Like you shouldn't have to be going to therapy to figure out how to naturally respond to a man. Like that's not something is off. I don't care why something's off.
But that could be.
Hold on. I can't hear you. Wait a minute. I don't know. I'm gonna get a new computer. I'm gonna get a new computer phone. Hold on. I swear to God, I'm gonna get a new computer. I can't hear, but this thing might allow me. Can you hear me, Vaughn?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Every now and then I gotta throw my headphone piece in there. But essentially,
but what does it? That has to be. It's a lot of elements to go in there to what the reasons why a women and men doesn't get along.
You saying it's another reason?
It could be a lot of elements.
Okay.
In that reasoning for man and a woman to not get along. Upbringing, been taught a certain way, experience.
Right.
Things, so.
But all of those things stem back to the problem innately within our psyche.
Okay. And psychic, okay. But that also goes to the reason why we come to this, our psychic conclusion is is because the way we was raised, our experience, our observation, things that we went through in life. So there's many elements within that reasoning that occurs for us to not come together as a male and a female. And so, but now when you say get along in what way? Intimately or friends? Or
well, okay, when it outside of male and female dynamics, right? I think it's still to a degree the same issue, right? But I feel that it depends on if we're talking about female to female or male to male. Okay, like what's really good. For instance, right? A man, or no, a woman, right? Killing her own child, right? You know something's off because that goes against nature. Women are equipped to have a kill to protect their own children switch. Now, if we don't have, like, if a woman comes into this world, right, and she don't have that switch, that means that obviously we come into this world without that switch. Like that's a reality. Whether or not I want to say, well, I got it, right? Another woman might not have it. So what does that really mean about our nature that we share? What does that mean?
So so when you say when you say nature, you talk about the laws of nature.
Nature, like in terms of the specific dynamics that define said thing, like the
Okay,
nature
what's
of
those?
a tree versus the nature of a flower.
But I'm talking about as far as us as male or female or man and a woman. Mm-hmm. When it comes to like what you did an analogy as far as her killing her child, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. For instance, and you say that's against nature. What you're saying, that's against the laws of nature, right?
Well, I say that tentatively because normally, okay, and I say that lightly, women are wired to kill for their children. They're not wired to kill their children.
Okay, so that means
for their children.
Right. So that means a law of nature, and what a laws within nature, as that has been applied. Okay, now for instance, the story. I don't know if you heard. Did you see that interview with John Legend's wife that she did when she said she remember years ago she's supposed to have had a miscarriage, but come to find out it was an abortion.
Yeah,
and she said it was an abortion because health issues or health reasons, but she's given two different. Listen to what she's saying though, because it's a lot not being there. It's a lot is something that is being covered up or something that they're not revealing. But she's saying that she feels though it was an abortion and not a miscarriage. So what is she feeling within her nature? She's feeling something.
Right. Now, here's my question, right? If a woman can do that, right, that means there's an opening in nature that allows for that to happen, because otherwise it wouldn't happen. My fear, okay, and I'll use the word fear, okay, in this instance, given what you just explained, my fear is that maybe, just maybe, human nature is not the way we might see it. Maybe we have, as they say, a sin nature, right? That sin nature may be that because we have a mix of natures, meaning we have the nature of a certain, of, let's say, one thing, another thing, and another thing, and our internal natures are conflicting with one another, which is why you will have some women that'll have the nature of a full-fledged mom that will kill for her baby, or a woman that will have a nature that would kill her baby and don't even understand why, and won't have feelings for it and won't understand why. Like, for real. And she won't be crazed out of mind. She just won't have that nature with her. Yet she's just as human as I am. She comes from the same pool of DNA that I come from. So my question is, are we really missing something about our origins, what we are and where we come from? Because you're not going to explain away, like you said, this is literally happening. So is it happening because this woman is within her nature doing that? Or is it because there's something else influencing our nature, i.e. the curse? And I don't like the word curse because it sounds spooky. But whatever this is, it's still acting on us.
Okay. And so that means, let's just go with that, because you said something open within nature,
Right. Is it like open or
It's a,
opening? Like there's an
so
opening in nature that allows for a problem somewhere.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that means we have to. Seems like we will have to get in tune of our nature and know within ourselves how nature is when it comes to the knowledge of it, the wisdom of it, and the understanding of it. So we able to control most of what's going on within us and without us, out nature. Is that what you're saying?
That now, no, but that does sound like a viable solution. But I'll say this. Does it not say in most historical documents, especially when it comes to human origins, that humans are born with more than one nature? At minimum two. Minimum two. Meaning there's stories that we have more than two natures because we're made up of more than two different types of species, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, I see that. I could say, well, like if I was biblical, I would say the two natures of the spirit and the flesh. So, so that means, are we out of tune of who we are? When I say out of tune, are we out of tune of knowing who we are within ourselves?
I think so.
To the point that the reason why we can't get along, or we see through our observations, male and female, or can't get along, and that's because we're not in tune within our inner self.
In our inner self, which is our core nature. I don't believe we ever was. I feel that the only reason why this conversation is coming up now is because we have time, literally time, to sit back and contemplate these things. I don't believe that in history we had time to sit back and contemplate, well, why do we feel this way about something? Like, I think that became popular as people had time to sit back and write books at large, because in Greece they only had like 2 or 3 people writing books and stuff. But I don't believe we ever were in tune with our nature. I do feel that from the story, like in the Apocrypha of Adam, and how he had trouble mentally with that transition and stuff, I feel that is the closest we can get to maybe understanding that, listen, we might not be as natural to this planet as we want to be, because I've always said black people ain't supposed to be here. White people, hell, ain't supposed to be here. Like, when you really look at it, like they don't really do well up in the cold either, as much as people think they do. They don't. They be intuitively needing the tropics. And even people that are in the tropics, right? They have to protect themselves from the tropics. That is not a natural environment. If you need protection from an environment, naturally, that's not your environment.
If you need protection from it, you say that's
right.
Not natural.
Like if I put a dog in water, right? Just put him in water, underwater. For that dog to thrive underwater, it needs protection from the water. Like, for it to thrive. You know why? Because it's a dog and it doesn't belong in water. That's not its natural place. Now, throw a fish in water, it doesn't need protection from water. Essentially, it is water and it needs water for it to thrive. And that's its natural condition and environment. So with us, we need protection from fucking air and shit.
But the air is nature, though.
No, everything's nature, but what I'm saying is we're not natural to this planet. And I'm not trying to over-religiousize the Bible, but I do think, because I'm not Christian, but I do think that the Bible makes a really compelling argument when you look at it from a physiological standpoint, that, as it said, Adam was created from the earth, right? And then he was placed in the garden, right? He wasn't made from the garden. He was made from the planet, placed in the garden, and then he came to earth after the fact. And then he was experiencing, as you said, these anomalies, that because he was just having a hard time acclimating to this new environment. So my thing is, I don't believe it was just he was having a hard time growing fruit and shit. I don't believe that. I believe that he was having a hard time breathing. He was probably having a hard time thinking because of the oxygen levels. He was probably having a hard time walking around, maybe because of the gravity levels. I don't know. But he was having a hard time. And I don't believe that's the case for nothing.
It probably was due to the environment that he was not used to.
Right, but keep in mind, he wasn't meant to be here. he wasn't meant to be here.
Oh, so but he was created here though. But
He was created
he
from
was
here,
created here, but he was
but
meant to stay. He was meant to
right.
stay in the garden, but
He
he
was
didn't due
created,
to
right.
right.
He was
But,
created, whatever he was created from, it came from here, but where he was meant, or let's say where he was built to thrive, was in a place that was unlike here. So when he came here, he had obviously issues. Now, I do believe that might be where disease start coming in, that mental disease even, because we don't see that in nature outside of human beings, which tells us it's something about our existence here that's off. And honestly, at this point, the fact that we still here is a problem. But again, when we look at the Bible, people dismiss that because it's religion. When you take out religion from the Bible and say, okay, we got a guy who was in a place that wasn't on this planet, that came to this planet and then started having problems. Obviously, that that's kind of clear. That's not religious. That's not based on faith. That's an actual scientific fact. That if we just popped up on Mars in the next 3 minutes, we would probably have a hard time.
Yeah, well, that's true because it's a different environment, different laws of nature. I just think that that could be many things as far as.
See, you and these many things.
It could be many things that when it comes to who we are, but I just know, like let's just say in the Bible, as time went on, because that's when cold weather, when he said cold weather and as far as not kill, all of that progress throughout the time of where we are today. There's some of the things that was done. It was done as a curse, and it's still continued. So it's many things, and I think that by us not knowing or what's going on and know the particular laws, the amendments to the laws, and things like that, even within ourselves and without ourselves, I think it could be looked at or it could be felt as a curse to the point that you can't get along with your opposite sex, a female.
Would you agree that if a man and a woman, either one or whatever, if they learned how to mitigate whatever this issue is naturally that we're having a problem with between the male and female gender, right? That essentially technically that is a miracle, because if your nature has it where so you're not wired to understand the thing, right, then you're not going to understand said thing. But if we're mitigating that in and of itself, would that not qualify as literal magic? And I guess to speak to the genius of our species, because I'm gonna be honest with you, Vaughn, when you're a woman and you have to sit back in your femininity, right, in your feminine mind, and then try to think like another species being that you're not, and understand it from your position, and then act in accordance that's correct, that's natural. First, there's no explaining that shit. There is no animal is gonna look back and figure out how I feel as a human in my mind, and then it don't work that way. But essentially, that's what men and women are having to do on this planet just to survive each other. And I mean that very literally. We're trying to survive each other.
Well, yeah, that's a core element in being here. It's survival, right?
I think survival is a core element of existence, not so much necessarily just on this planet. It is very tentative to just existence anywhere, as all things are seeking to survive. The planet wants to survive, and people would argue whether or not the planet is alive or not, but everything is seeking to survive.
Right.
So,
but the thing is, how we go. So then, the thing is, how we go about survival, and that could be. It's just like me. Let's just say, use you and I as instance. We are two human species trying to survive. but we have different ways that we go by to survive. We may go by different laws. We may go by one part of law. I may be on this page of the law, and that could be many ways the reason why we're on two different pages. But the thing is, I think that what hurts, I think what it hurts us is when we close minded, as far as, yes, I may be on a different page, but am I willing to go back or go forward on the page of the person that I'm trying to be friends with or intimate with? Are we as a people are willing to take those chances, or are we living like savages trying to just survive, but multiply to get to an agenda which we feel will be at a certain status in the social environment that we live in?
I think they're going on, meaning that there's a portion of the population that's devolving, and devolving is a scientific term, and it is an actual thing. And I feel that there's a portion of the population that is evolving, right? To which, yes, we're learning our nature, and we're learning to mitigate the things in our nature that hinder us in terms of our survival. So you have a portion of the population that may say, listen, part of survival is reproducing, right? And reproducing at a rate that you can sustain. Well, that
Reproducing in what
population,
way? Reproducing in what way?
in terms of reproducing with children, reproducing in terms of their value on the planet, keeping things going, stuff like that. There's another population that do not contribute to that, and what they do contribute to is their own demise. Like literally, their own hand is their own demise, and they're just going faster at doing it. So the population is splitting. However, there has been some foresight into that. People say, it's been prophesied or whatever. I don't like the word prophesied, as you already know why, but I will say that if somebody woke up 6,000 years ago and said, one of these days it's going to be like that, and then I woke up this morning and was like, you know what, that is exactly what's going on, I'm not going to sit there and doubt what they were saying. That's not what I'm fit to do.
But why you don't like prophecy? It's funny how a woman doesn't
it's
like
the word.
It's the word, because women do it all. Women do it all the time. Women.
Right. No, women do it all the time, but we do it all the time from a position of intuition, which is something people don't respect. People don't respect the word intuition because of how it's been popularized.
Oh, okay.
But I don't like the term prophesied because it has this connotation that you're telling the future in a way that naturally you wouldn't be able to tell the future. Therefore, you are lying.
Oh, okay.
So, I know that doesn't mean somebody's lying. I know that, but the word itself, it's too much associated with it for me to do that. Like I always tell people, listen, my intuition has never been wrong. My intuition do not lie. And even when I question my intuition, it always proved to be the truth. And that's one thing I can tell you that does not lie. Even when I think I'm lying to myself, that don't lie.
So what should we do first? Okay, let's procreate, right? We got a child, and then you were saying procreate in another way. What should we do first? Should we even not even think about when it comes to the child? Should we steadfast on procreate when it comes to building a relationship with one another? And how do we go about it, procreating in that way, a spiritual way, since we dealing with the Bible? How do we procreate spiritually with one another? How do we match our nature, our fleshly nature and our spiritual nature, to procreate and establish a relationship, being intimately or just friends?
Okay, so the human spiritual nature, right, is something that is in tune not only with itself but its environment, and past and present and future. It's in tune with all of that, and it's not fighting against anything because it's already in tune. It's the fleshly part, or the 3D part of reality, right? The more solidified reality that has the contention with everything else. So here's the thing. When you look at animals, right, the good thing about looking at animals is that it gives you a blueprint of what is supposed to be, meaning this. An animal doesn't fight its nature. It doesn't fight its nature. However, an animal knows intuitively that its job is to maintain itself. Like, it doesn't think about that. It intuitively knows, I am here to maintain myself. And one thing about animals is they're very highly selective in terms of maintaining themselves. If you try, like, it's certain things, if you try to do with animals, they will fight you to their own death because they intuitively know that's not supposed to happen. Period. Unless you do something to an animal to the point that its mind is messed up, it will fight you to the death. And right now, we procreate simply because it happens, not because we have any technically any, even the most spiritual of us, right, are not having children for any reason outside the fact that, well, we're humans and we have children. Like, what are we having children for? Like, animals don't just have children just to have children. They have children for a specific purpose. It might be different animal to animal, species to species, but they're very aware of that. Us, we're not so much aware of that. We know, well, we need children from a archaic standpoint because we need help around the house, right? But now that we're in 2022 where that's not the case, why do we need children? We need to be clear on why we're doing anything. And I honestly think at a fundamental level, if we're clear on why we're doing the thing, right, that'll propel us further in terms of what we're doing and how efficient we are at doing it when we're clear on why we're doing it. Because I'm be honest with you, when you're clear on why you're having children, right, you don't treat your children like they were something that came and cramped your style. You just don't have that same feeling when you know why you're making them. But at the same time, beyond making children, right, I feel that humanity is lacking an understanding of itself. Meaning, like we were saying before, we seem to have multiple natures. And it's conflicting. One nature is a certain way, and it conflicts with another nature. Then that nature conflicting with something else. It's like we're made up of multiple things. It's like remember the movie, was it is it Jason, the one where his mother got raped by like 1,000 men or something, and like his spirit was messed up because he had all these conflict and energies within him or something like that. I forgot that scary movie. But
it might have been Jason. I don't watch scary movies. I'm a punk. I don't watch scary movies.
Well, no, I didn't even watch that movie. I only know about it because I seen the clips and I heard about it because my parents was not having me doing that. But I seen some of the clips, and I do understand that the reason he was in so much conflict with himself is because he had different spirits in him because of, quote unquote, he had different fathers, and they were all at war with one another. Same thing, and I do like the TV references, like in the show The Last Avatar. The boy he always was angry, and it came out that his grandfathers, right, used to be best friends, and before he was born, they started going to war with one another. And when his mother and father got together in the middle of that war, that spirit of war between his grandfathers was in him. So he couldn't like do what he needed to do because there was an internal war. But that was his genetic memory of that war between his grandparents. And that just kind of conceptually go, because that's a cartoon.
So how do you so how do you go by when you see that? Mm-hmm. How do you go by to become one with, if y'all on different lines and you see that and you identify that, how do you become one and procreate spiritually with that person? How do we do that?
Procreating spiritually, right? Mm-hmm. At least from my understanding, takes a certain level of attention that I have not seen in any remote great deal on this planet, in no culture. I haven't seen that. Like, it doesn't matter what corner of the earth you can talk about. I know of it, but I have not seen it anywhere. Meaning this: before you procreate with someone, right, there's certain rituals that you can do to understand what's spiritually inside of a person, thus inside of their lineage, that is inside of them. And therefore, when you understand that, you don't mix certain things that aren't meant to be mixed. You just don't. From a spiritual level, as they say in the Bible, you don't want to be unequally yoked. Well, how do you know what yoke anybody is to be unequally yoked, right? There's certain things you have to do and perform to understand that. But
And
that
what's
right
that?
there
What's
is the
that,
very
name?
deep level spirituality that it does not exist in any great form that you're probably going to find readily anywhere. Like, you be hard pressed to find a small community that has knowledge of said things, that actually practice said thing. Generally speaking, you won't find that practice, and
Practice
that
what? A
practice,
ritual? Practice a
that
ritual or
no,
something?
it's a spiritual like ceremony or
Oh,
ritual in
but okay.
different
Let's
cultures. And usually you do find it in your Western cultures. It looks a lot different than the Eastern cultures. But when you do, wherever you find it, in the little bit of places you find it, you'll see that those people are highly intuitive in terms of procreating with people that spiritually don't match them. And I don't mean in terms of, well, we have the same religion. It's deeper than that.
Okay.
So
Don't women don't is isn't it true? Like you said, women are intuition. It's very strong in them. Don't they? Could they use their intuition, which they're strong in them, to identify um, a man's spiritual um, what word I'm looking for? His spiritual lacking. I guess I'm
mhm.
gonna use that. Him lacking spiritually. Could she use her intuition to identify that and procreate with that man to what he is lacking to bring it up to a status that they could come together as equally yoked? Could a woman do that?
I'll say this, right? Theoretically, a woman can do that. Theoretically. But the problem with that, which is why I say theoretically, is because most of the population has devolved both physically and spiritually and psychologically. And as a result of all three of these breakdowns, the general female intuition has been calcified from a physical standpoint and non-physical standpoint. So a lot of times when a female thinks she's following her intuition, she's following like what something else. It's not her intuition she's following. You have a few people that can do it to a degree, right? In terms of the females. And but the issue there is for the people who can do it, that still have that sensory that can do it, they're usually steeped in beliefs that tell them you can't have knowledge of something like that because you're not God. And so when your intuition tells you when you walk into a room, get out of here right now, or that person's going to do this in a couple days, or watch out for that, or this is going to happen here. As soon as you come in contact with something, your mind instantly goes back to, I'm not God. I can't know that. That's going to be false. No. And then what happens all the time? You come back to, something told me this was going to happen. But that's how people are. They always come back to, something told me, but they aren't in the mindset to pick up on the cues to move with that. And honestly, I'm not going to say I'm free of that, because there's times when my intuition tells me things, right? And I feel scared to make a decision based on just my intuition, because it's such a slight thing that will tell you something so grand that in reality, because you can't go back in the past and see, like, or whatever, it'll scare you to make you think that, like, listen, I could meet someone and feel their past and then feel my own future with them in the future. Like, I can do that and make a decision right there on it. Because as you know, Vaughn, women, when a man come in our presence, we already know what the deal is. It don't take more than 3 seconds. We already intuitively know. Like, when a man is not for you, all women know that it's not for you, but we go against our intuition. Why? Because that's the calcification of where we're at right now. That we and naturally we have something that we don't even use. So what's the point of us having it? Like naturally, what's the point? But you see, part of us are evolving, other parts of us are devolving. And this is the fundamental issue going on in humanity right now, because we can't get along. Half the planet wants to save it, the other half wants to blow it up with nukes. Like, we can't get along. And I mean, I've come to rely on my intuition. And the second I feel my intuition ringing off either good or bad, I pay attention, and I make decisions the best way I know how when it comes to
So
that.
why do you sometimes that you said you get scared? Why do you get scared?
I get scared because of the grandeur of what I'm feeling.
And
Like
What's that?
like let's suppose I come into a house and I can feel within a couple days somebody's not going to be able to come here anymore, meaning that somebody's going to die. I don't want to feel that. That's like, I don't want to feel that. And honestly, when I was a child, I used to see things that I didn't want to see. And it's like, it's scary. Some of these things are scary. Like some people, when they're clairaudient, right? Or clairvoyant or clairsentient, these things that people say these are gifts. And in reality, they are gifts, but they're
Right.
also curses too.
Right.
Because if you can hear everything, or things you're not trying to listen to, that can be torment. If you can see the future of whether it's good or bad, that can be torment. That's not necessarily a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's scary, the things that you can feel. Like, it's just scary. But the thing is, you can feel, oh my God, like I could actually like move. I got a compass. I can move through life that God gave me, and it's always on point. Or you can really live in that moment and realize that, yeah, this is a burden too. Like, don't get it twisted. This is a burden. It's not the cakewalk you want to, you will wish it was. But
do you think it's where we are as far as, since men been in charge or men running things, do you feel as though the way the society is mostly the man's fault?
I'm not going to use the word fault, because you got the different elements of society, to which the physical part of society is built by the man. Obviously, that's like a natural way of things happen. And then the non-physical culture of said built society is essentially influenced or maintained by the women. Obviously, that's natural. So it's not necessarily their fault that things are the way that it is in terms of, what you see. But I will say that when it comes to the proliferation of certain things in society and in the culture, that the job of men is to regulate, right? And if they fail to regulate, then they fail to actually live in their purpose. So therefore, one could argue, what is the point of males that aren't regulating?
So you think that, okay, so the core that you see today as far as man and female not getting along,
Mm-hmm.
and due to so do you think most of it is
I think it's genetic.
and
I think we're experiencing
genetic in male and female?
Yes, I think that the problem is, genetically, we have a genetic memory that is innate to all of us, that causes us all to have deficiencies in naturally understanding and intuitively operating with the opposite sex or the opposite gender. Like, we have a switch that is not on, or a switch that ain't off, something, but it's in our genetics, and the only way we get out of it is if we force ourselves to do something literally that feels like it's against our nature, to just simply survive with one another. Again,
do you think that's because of that? Do you think it's because of the environment that, like, for instance, you don't think it's the environment?
I don't think it's an environment.
So what women are doing, that we see also, independent, strong, right? What do you think is? Do you think it's because what men has done to them over the years, or
No.
Oh, okay. Right.
Because keep in mind, the only reason why the woman feels independent is because the men have gave her a sense of it. And I use the word gave her a sense of it very literally. When you as a woman can wake up and you have aid, you have security, you all you got to do is fill out a piece of paper, and then you're given fiat cash, and you can get all these different things and have health care, and then all like, yeah, and you like, that's a system that a man created, so therefore you can feel like you're independent in that system. But if those said men didn't exist, and that system that they uphold didn't exist, you would be out here fighting fucking bears.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like men give women the sense of what they feel is independent. But is that men's fault? No, men are supposed to do that. They're supposed to create systems around their kind, around their women, around their families. That's not a thing that men are not supposed to do. But let's be clear on this word independent.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, really don't exist.
Ah.
Human beings are pack animals. That's what we are, in a sense. Like, we are our strongest when we are splitting tasks and we're moving as a group. Like, we don't really exist individually. We die out faster when we're individuals. It's only when we're groups that we're actually stronger and we live longer, just naturally, you know. If you ever watch any of those survival shows where they're just alone and stuff like that, and they gotta tap out, versus when those survival shows where you got multiple people, like there was a show where there was couples, they were naked, they wasn't really married, but they were couples and they were working together to survive. Those people survived longer when the woman had a task and she was splitting it with the man, and they had more food, and they just lasted longer, period, than the people that were trying to survive on their own. Because again, our nature is to create a system around ourselves to keep ourselves afloat. That's what every organism does. So I'm not saying that what you're saying is men's fault, as if they're at fault for doing that. Like, I wouldn't say that.
You ever seen that Kendrick Lamar got a short film?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see it first. But it's him and he's going back and forth with this woman, and they arguing all with different things, going back and forth. But at the end of it, they end up it's crazy. They end up having a sexual relationship. They argue, going back and forth, calling each other bees, and you are low down, blah 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 blah. And then at the end, going off, boom. They get into a sexual relation. I'm thinking when I see it, so is this where we are today in a society like that? Are we, or is, when I say society, I'm talking about the generation of today, or that's just a certain environment that occurs not just in the Black community, but any community that is in social at the bottom, I per se. But even at the top, but I ain't gonna say bottom, even at the top.
Well,
but I think it's more often done at the bottom, I guess.
Right.
So,
but no. Keep in mind, right? It exists more than at the bottom. But let me show you this, right? There's a species of like bird, right? Where I forgot the name of them. But what happens is, in the culture of those birds, the mother and fathers of the chicks or whatever specifically don't teach the birds how to procreate or how to get along outside of the nest, right? So the birds, when they meet the opposite gender or sex, right? They fight first, not because they feel like threatened, right? But because essentially they don't understand what to do. And they figure it out after they literally fight. They figure it out. But the fight is to figure each other out. But they are literally in combat, right? But it's just that species of birds. That's not every species of birds, just that one, right? So I say that to say that, again, human beings seem to be made up of different natures. Now, I'm going to go further probably later on when me and you talk about what I really believe about why we have more than two natures, right? Because I feel like we're made up of more than one type of being, okay? But like that, like those birds, there's a part of our nature that when we meet the opposite sex, right? We're naturally in combat because we really don't understand what we feel, but through that combat we figure it out, like the birds. But it's like
So
the
when you say
problem,
don't
but
understand,
hold on before you try to jump in and get me right. The problem is we also have a sickness where that combat is out of order, meaning anything that's done too long is out of order. Period. Like the feeling of fear is natural, right? You're supposed to feel fear so that you can respond and protect yourself. But if you feel fear all the time, even when there's no reason for you to feel it, now you're talking about mental disease. So this is what I'm saying. Like there's a certain element of that is natural to us as a species, because like when you meet a woman, right? Like when you're young, you always feel the need to kind of test her, pluck her nerves, but you like her, but you feel the need to make her angry. Like you just do. That's just naturally what we do when we young, even when we old sometimes.
you talk about
But
puppy love.
no, but that's a form of the phase that we go through in the dealing with the opposite gender. When we're of a certain age in terms of our biology, we tend to want to challenge the other sex when we like them. Like it's just a natural thing we do.
Well,
We don't
yeah,
even understand.
it's certain things that they do to see
Yeah,
if that person actually cares. So it's a
right,
tactic that is being used. So
right. But naturally, we do that. We don't know
okay,
why.
so but you said something. Why do we call it a mental illness? I'm sorry. The video is called "When We Cry Together." That's
When we cry together.
But
Go ahead.
by Kendrick Lamar. But it would have been good. Oh, that's right. I was getting ready to say you could probably share it so people can listen. But
When we cry together, I gotta check that out. I haven't
yeah,
checked it out yet.
yeah, it's
It
called When
sounds
We
good
Cry.
though. It
Yeah,
sounds real good.
it's crazy. They argue, going back and forth, and all this, and at the end, they taking off the clothes and pull the pants down, and boom, they on the couch. I like get out of here. But then I was like, you know what? When I was in my 20s and stuff like that, I do remember. Do you remember doing it? So, but are we? I know you said, why do we call it mental illness? Is it mental illness, or is it something that we believe this is what we need to do, and this is what love is? This is how
no.
is that?
It's mental illness because it's literally out of order. Meaning, if you think you see something, right? You look and you're like, oh, okay, it's not there. But if you think you see something, you look, and then you're acting as if it's there, right? And there's people around and you're bumping into them because you're trying to avoid something that they can't see, and then you're harming yourself, and now you're harming them, and there's no cohesiveness. Now you're talking about something that is out of order. But if you were trying to get away from somebody that everybody could see, nobody would say you were out of order. So it's not mental illness because we believe something or we don't believe something. We all are entitled to believe things, like we just are, because it's yet to be proven, obviously, because it's a belief. But when it comes to mental illness is about the regulation of order. And when you look at any mental illness, like people with personality disorder, to the point it is a mental disorder, right? The problem is your personality, right, has a disorder, meaning something isn't in line right, and it's causing an adverse or maladaptive effect on you. So therefore, we say you have a mental illness because something inside of your psyche is out of alignment, that's causing a problem within you that's not supposed to be there. So, I mean, I could go further in that, but I don't want to go into that because I think that'd be too politically, polarizing right now.
You might go into psychiatry doctors.
Yeah, 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 pretty much. I don't think that tonight. But you got me intrigued about this "We Cry Together" thing. I have to watch that, and I pulled it up right here on YouTube, and I see it. It do look pretty good. It is you said a short film.
Yeah, it's like it's a short film, and they going back and forth. I mean, cussing each other out. I mean, cussing. And at the end, he stopped her from going to work. She had to go to work. Then she ended up not going to work. It's crazy. And at the end of the day, at the end of the doggone thing, they having sex. I said, get out of here.
But wait a minute, you felt like they should have like separated or something. That's what you felt like.
Well, I felt many things with that there, but the main thing I was like, well, hold up, maybe is this a problem? What is the problem here? And is this the problem occur within us? And why does it occur this way? Because I know when I was young, this was one of the things that I went through when I was young. So in this generation, and sometimes it still occur in older adults. They still carry that same weight as they was when they was young. That's how they was raised. That's what they're comfortable with. But I'm saying, is it more so done in this society than it was when we was growing up? And what do we need to do to clear that up? Because when you watch that, I mean, cussing, I mean, they really, they about 2 seconds away from battling each other. So it's I'm like, oh my goodness, but
I gotta see it. Yeah. Well, okay. Let me do this, Vaughn, right? Because I'm definitely gonna see that and get back to you on it, because I really want to analyze that. Because right now, my whole point is human beings are acting this way because it's happened before in a remote past that genetically we're still remembering, but we don't believe it because we take some of the information we have as religion and myth, and we're not putting any facts to it to understand that maybe, just maybe, we repeating a history here, and this is the problem that we don't see coming. But I want to get to something somebody said in the comment section. Mr. William Graves, let me show this. He says, why women allow him to love, right? Like, why women allow him to love. Now, this is interesting because when you look at this question, right, it's formulated to ask the question, well, why is it that the woman has control? However, I know that William Graves is not saying that a woman has control. He's actually trying to argue the opposite. So, but this is what this is what we're dealing with in society. There's this war of who's better. That's what this is. And I know we've all heard it. Women are better than men. Men are better than women. Women are better cheaters. Men are better liars. Everything is about who's better, because people don't really understand the interdependency that human beings have with each other, from a psychological need to a physiological need. If you notice, when you are not around humans but for so long, your mind start tripping and playing tricks on you when you're not around other humans. Like, people say they like being alone until they really gotta be literally alone. They've ran experiments to see how being without other humans will drive you to go mad in your mind. Period. Doesn't matter what gender it is, you will go mad. So when we ask the question, well, why women allow men to love? There's no such thing as allowing another person to love. The word love is deeper than a choice, is deeper than the physical reality we're in or not in. So we can't say, well, why do women allow anyone to love? That's not what that is. Now you can say, why does a woman not allow a man to come in her house? You can say that. You can say, well, why does a woman allow a man to run up in her raw? You can say that. But to say, well, why does she allow him to love? It's like, okay, let's really back in. Women don't allow men to do but so much now.
Well, but but that's true. But I think, and more so, I think I'm gonna put it this way. And this is, communication is essential when you're dealing with relationship and trying to establish relationship. But I believe he is saying as far as some women has a certain way that they believe what a man needs to do for them to see, oh, this is a good man for me, or I'm gonna continue with this man. This man needs to be this, he needs to be that, he needs to do this, he needs to do that, because that's how I understand, or that's how I was raised and taught what a man needs to do so I know that he loves me. You need to love me in this way. Because if you don't, it's not going to. You're not a man, or you don't know anything, because you fit outside of the guidelines that I have set and I have been taught. And if you go down south, right, and I used to Louisiana, and how it is up north, you will see it's a difference, to the point I can understand his question when he says, why do women allow? Because like my brother, his ex-wife, and their family, the women control. I mean, I like, oh, no, and because to the point, because the sister used to, like me, and I was like, nope. When I seen how the mother was.
Are you sure the women controlled it, or is it that the men were just choosing not to be in control?
You can say that both. You can say that. I just know if the way the women is, to that question he asked, that's how they was. That's how
Well, I'll say this, right? Women have lost their natural magic in terms of their intuition, right? Because just because a man, let's suppose every man on the planet, right, had a place to stay, had a vehicle, had a job, and a 401k. Okay? Let's put every man on the same playing field. Now what? Are you meant to be with every man? Because every man has the same income, and 401k plan. You see what I'm saying? So we know intuitively that we're not meant to be with every man. But when a woman forgoes her intuition and what she knows as the truth of why she was given that intuition to choose beyond what the physicality will allow her to see, what she's doing now is devolving. Because I'll say this, I've been in the company of men that had money, right? That had physical things, right? That was wealthy. And I felt nothing, right? And they could take care of me. They could do all of that, but I felt nothing here, right? And then I've been around men that really couldn't afford to take me on a date. And I felt it, right? In terms of my heart space. So now the question is, well, reconciling those two things, right? But the thing is, our intuition is not only to help us navigate when we in imminent danger. It's to help us navigate the heart space too, which is a deeper level of danger, if you ask me. So again, we are devolving. Women have gotten to the point where now they're trying to make choices as if they're men. But the problem is, as a woman, right, you don't have the physicality, right, to make a choice as a man. Because when you start making choices as a man, right, with that logic that you think men are making their choices with, all you're doing is digging a hole for yourself. Meanwhile, a man making the decision as a man, right, he's helping himself. But the same logic is killing you. That's because you outside of your lane. You have a mental illness. That's what you trying to think like a lion and wondering why you're not successful in a bear society. That's what that is. And that's not men's fault that you can't think like a man and make logical decisions and then still be happy. That's not their fault. That nature didn't equip them to solve that problem. That's not their problem. So when it comes to women and these issues, right, it's not men's fault that's the case. Like you said, who's at fault? I don't know if it's anybody at fault per se, but women that are controlling in that way, like with the example you gave, they're not really in control. that men give them a sense of being in control when men take a step back and let them do whatever they're doing. But women are never really in control because of our natural position to men. Because obviously, right, if a group of men stepped in that wanted to be in control, these women literally have no choice.
Well,
So
okay,
what
well,
control
let's
do
put
they
it,
exercise?
whatever it is, let's just say that the man allow it.
Okay.
Right? Let's just say that. That is, let's just say that's a problem.
That's a problem for a
that's
different
a
reason.
problem.
That's a problem for a different reason.
Right. So
Yeah.
we could say that the man allow it. He whatever he is or what type of person he is, whatever. He allows it. And it is I remember when I drove, it was crazy. We was going to North Carolina. Never forget this. And you mean and I mean, it was, I've never drove someone for that to somewhere and was so unappreciative in what she was doing. And then he started getting in with her. I was like, is this guy is what? I could not believe it. But then when I got around the family, that's how they were. That's how they were. That's how my brother's ex-wife, and now the sister, she was cool, but I didn't take the chance. I was no way. Oh no.
Have you
Especially when I
seen
see the way the mother was, I was like, oh no, that's not happening.
Right. Have you seen, because that reminds me of something, right? Have you seen the movie, not the movie, but the series Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
You remember the difference in the men of Highgarden versus the men of was it Essos or that? You notice the difference, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the men, but you notice ultimately what the end result was. The first kingdom to get taken over and get X'd out was the one where the men was falling back in Highgarden, right?
Right.
But see, the females thought that they were strong. They thought that they could be like they really believe that shit. But in reality, naturally, right, you're given a false sense of leadership and superiority because of the comfortability that the men are allowing you to have. So to his question of, well, why does the women allow? No, the men allow them to feel that they are in charge. That's the issue. It's not that the women are actually in charge, allowing men to fall back. It's not
so it's not what you're saying. It's not forced. A woman can't force. And it has to be to the point that a man have to give in and allow it to occur.
That's the only way for her to do anything is if he gives in. Therefore, she does not have any innate power over him.
But the thing is, but why she does right? But she is a part of it because why would you do that? Why would you do that for a man to make a decision? To do for you better love me this way. You need to love me this way, homie, because it's not gonna work. Why would
it's a natural course of action. For instance, take a good woman, right? Let's suppose she get with a guy and she think he's a good guy, but then she get married to him and stuff like that, and then he starts turning out to be a fuckboy, right? As he starts showing her, like he start falling off from his job as a man, his natural position, naturally she has to recompensate. And she doesn't even know she's recompensating because it's like you take a step forward, that means we got to take a step forward and back. It's a dance. The more you take steps back, the more I got to come forward. That's how it is. And the more I come forward means the more I'm doing, period. So it's like, females do not sit and make men do these things. For whatever reason men are doing these things, the women are simply just filling in like a single mother. She doesn't want to be daddy, but naturally she knows if a dad isn't around, the children need structure, so she has to give them that to some retarded level. She got to give them something, so therefore she will do her best to give them that, even to her own detriment. But again, this is a natural progression.
I think that's true, but that's another case of it. I've seen cases, experienced cases, especially down south, many of it down south, but some up north, like some up north, but
Sounds
many
too
down
much.
south. Oh no, and I tell you one, I ain't gonna tell you a particular island, but some island girls, woo, you better be right. You better not slip. you have to be on your toes every time. You better not slip, because if you do,
What you talking them
you,
Gullah Geechee girls?
yeah, and yeah, you better not slip. That's all. That's all you need to know. You better not slip, because once you slip, that's it. But the point is, it's accountability needs to be on both sides.
It does need to be on both sides, but I'm gonna tell you something, right? It ain't gonna be on no side if the side that's responsible for enforcing and regulating that ain't doing that.
I don't see me.
Look
I
at
don't
it
even
from a,
want. I
look
don't
at
really
it.
want. I don't even deal. Me personally, when I see that over aggressive, oh no, I don't even. Don't even do it. I won't even get into it. It's no
But no,
need for me.
you're still exercising control and regulation of it indirectly. Meaning this, when you see an overly aggressive woman, right? Your instant thought is to treat it a certain way to nullify its effect. So therefore, what you're doing essentially is putting the plant in the closet and shutting it off from any light and attention, and knowing it will die there. That's how we deal with that. We contain it right there. You don't accept it, and more people are learning not to do that, not to try to fight with somebody else's toxicity. Leave it where it's at. Let it die where it's at. Don't entertain it and cause it to grow even more.
Right.
That's what people are doing to regulate a lot of things. But from a man's standpoint, in your circumstance, when you see those things, you're learning, don't look at her ass. Regulate and say no, damn it. That's what that's about.
Yeah, I don't. Well, see,
because look at it the opposite way.
I'm a person. Yes, I don't look at it, but I see what you're saying as far as taking control of us as a man and as the head of the household. Yes, but to the point is, if you have to force it, and that now, if I see a woman that's over aggressive, it has to be. I look for consistent. It could be that's the way she was raised, that's the way she was taught, or that's the way she believes. So I try to pay attention to the person's heart first, because then that allowed me to know how I'm able to move and all we're going to progress in this relationship. Because she could be showing something that she's been taught, but she's not actually that type of person.
I've seen that too.
And for me to know that, I will have to be around her and make sure I pay attention of her consistent.
But that's you in a sense, that's you being a male, which innately is a head of household from a communal standpoint, saying, okay, from a communal standpoint, I see a woman that's masculine, but as head of household, right? I know I can't make a decision until I understand certain things in order. Therefore, I'm not just going to immediately walk away, but I will walk away at a certain point. But that's part of the indirect regulation of said thing. And that's what I'm saying. The accountability can be had on both sides, but if the responsibility of regulating that, right, isn't done on the male side first, because that is the side that literally keeps it in order. It does. Men don't make things move. Men just keep things in order so that it can move, right? The feminine is what makes things move. It's so like you're gonna have that problem.
What do you mean in order? Keep things in order. What do you mean?
For instance, men are the ones that build the road, right? Women are the one that cause the cars to go up and down the road. It's like you're creating that structure for things to move in, but you're not the reason why things are in it moving. You're creating that line to keep it straight. But that's what you're essentially doing with the woman. You're saying, as a man in the community, I'm gonna look at you and I'm gonna regulate based on what I can intuitively understand by your pattern. Now, if you see her pattern being that which something that needs to die out, your next move is to basically shut her out of any communication with you, any type of procreation with you, and any type of resources with you.
Oh no, I won't shut her. I will shut her out as far as growing intimately. Yeah,
that's what I'm
but
saying. You're gonna shut her
okay.
out of resources, procreation, and communication with you. That's a way of regulating.
No, I
the
will still communicate with her. I still be a friend.
Not on no, you know, extra shit. Not on no extra level.
No,
You
no,
know.
I still be a friend. I will go.
You ain't being nobody's friend.
Yeah, I'm telling you for real. Let me tell you something. All my girlfriends that I had, except one. But if I call her, she'll talk to me. It was something years ago. We got into it about her child. But if I call her, she would definitely talk to me. All of them except my ex-wife. But I could sit and talk, be friends with someone. Nothing as far as sexual communication, especially if I feel as though that we started out that I was like, oh, I'm gonna see if we can get together and see if it'll grow. And then if I see something, oh, that's it. I won't intimately. I will not go forward. But friends, if she ever call or communicate, or she may say, Vaughn, about a dating situation, anything, oh yeah, I'm good with that. But as far as intimate, no, because I always feel once you go there, oh man, you gotta. It can turn into something that you will regret, and it could turn into something outrageous that you probably can't handle. So,
well, look at no, and I totally agree with you, right? But the perspective you just gave is from your own perspective, right? But when you look at it from a communal standpoint, essentially, if all the men are acting like you, right, what they're saying to the community is, I can't force you not to be this way, right? Like physically, but I can force you to make a choice. If you want to survive in the group, you will act in accordance to what the regulations I'm giving, which is if you want provision, if you want resources, if you want attention, if you want you if you want my attention or any person like me, you will act in accordance, or else we will relegate you to a certain sector of men that we know is a punishment for you. Period. That's a way of saying, listen, we're regulating the circumstance. But if men are just falling back and feeling like, you know what, let me just wife any chick because at this point I'm 47. It's time to get married. She got a fat ass. Whatever. Like, this is what I'm saying. That's a form of falling back. And then the women naturally is just gonna like just fill in. That's just what we do.
Fill in what?
Anyway, like Vince, if we have in-house penis, but he can't work, what a woman gonna do next? She just gonna go get a second job. That's all she gonna do. Vice versa, that's all she gonna do. Like I'm just saying, we fill in, and sometimes that fill in is good, right? But then when it's ongoing, it just becomes us just doing the most, and doing the most usually means we're sitting in our masculine energy. That's it.
But I've been to when I was out in contracted throughout the country. I've been to houses that I go to the house and ask them where they want the cable with blah, 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 how many rooms, and the man be there. He said, "Hold on, let me call the wife." What? And then I've been in houses that I go in there, the wife, or most of them, it was like, let me call him to see where he want to put it in the basement, in the man cave. That was the only time, as far as the call. Other than that, it was where the women wanted to put it. And when I went to the man was like, well, let me call the wife and see how she wanted and where she wanted.
That's because of the aesthetics. That's because he don't want it to mess up the aesthetics, and that's her department. The aesthetics of power.
Whatever it is, right? It's somebody. Whatever it is, right? It's somebody. It's a couple or communication that goes on within a relationship that some people may say they're playing a role. They know the role within themselves, and they carrying it out or accomplishing, which I thought was nice. And I think a man can keep order with also a woman. Like if I go out and get a car, believe it or not, I go out and get a car. the first person I call or communicate is a woman. Can you come with me? Don't worry, I got the engine to know that to take us. But I take her with me because she will hear things that I may hear, or she would identify something and see something like, nope, that's not right. It's the intuition that I use. You know, you got to play the game. She will identify. She said, "You see that mark on there, or you see that deck that I ain't even looking at?" Because you know how men is. We don't look at particulars. We just look at a generalization or overall. But women, oh, they get into it. So if I go get something new, or if I'm up, let me take a woman. Let me take, sister or girlfriend of mine.
But that's because you're intuitively understanding the limits of your masculinity and where her femininity picks up. But again, that goes to my point that there's a section of humanity that are evolving inside of that space that isn't so physical, that allows them to be at one with everything around them, including other people and stuff like that. And then not really. But I'll say this, right? Because hold on, it said 3:16. I think I want to end this because I don't want to go too far, right? So M3, I'm gonna end it, or you can end it, but I want to say this last piece first, with Vaughn. If we want to make change, right, as a society, right, and it's only a few of us that are out here saying, listen, we got to do this, that, and the third so we can get better. At the end of the day, we might have to let a few people die. Okay, we might. And we might have to continue to essentially give people a choice to join or die, right? And over time, and we know how the equation goes, over time, we will have what we have, right? But again, that has to be their choice. But keep in mind, when people don't choose life, they're choosing death. That's it. If you don't choose life, you choose death. There's nothing in between. Ain't no purgatory in between. You're just gonna die. And I truly do feel that as a man, right? If more men were more in tune with their manhood to the point where they would say, I would never tell another woman I'm better than you because I'm a man. Like, you have to really be in your feminine to be a man talking about I'm better than you as a man just because you're a man. And then you walking around with a cross on your neck and I'm reading verses from the Bible that's like, yo, you won't good enough without her and shit. So, with like, how you better than the thing that is making you you?
Right.
I don't understand that. But it goes the same way on the women's side. If you were made from a man, however that man came to be, if you was made from him, how are you better than him? You just an extension of him. Period.
That's true. I got you.
No matter how good or bad men are, you are an extension of them. Like I always say, we are our father's daughters. No matter how good or bad they are, we are our father's daughters. That's it. Like, we're the combination of our fathers. That's it. That's all we is. So my father isn't perfect, but he raised me the way I am. So I'm just saying that's the reality we're living in. But Vaughn, I'm telling you now, we're gonna have to get down to some nitty gritty in terms of this off conversation that we've been dancing around tonight. Because I can see people might want me to talk about that, but I'm gonna have to talk about that on a stream where I'm not constricted to respecting the difference between the Apocrypha and then the Bible and then certain versions, and then I think was it Von Bryant came and wanted to differentiate the word Elohim from God the Father. Like, okay. Like, there's so many debates that can go down in these conversations, and I try my best, and I hope people appreciate it. I try my best to, respect the lines as much as I can without going overboard. But we're gonna have to really wrap up. Because see, I got my gloves on right now, and y'all know I do martial arts, and I hate wearing gloves because them joints is like for sissies and shit. It just
Right.
is. Like when you go see boxers and they be having all them gloves and stuff, that's for sissies. Take them gloves off and box.
Oh, okay.
See if your knuckles can handle where you hitting that without the nice little plush gloves on.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
My
no.
knuckles can't handle it. So.
I'm just saying. But I'm gonna take the gloves off soon. But I want to do it with tact. You know, I do. I want to do it with tact. But tonight, I just wanted to shoot the breeze about this because it's one of those little things that we don't pay attention to. Like, because women say, you know, everyone comes from woman, right? Woman is this, and I'm sitting here like, no, there's a way humanity could have came from a man. It is. I can think of a few ways. Yeah.
I can't. That's something. Well, that's a whole nother subject right there. That's getting into. That's
Like,
all.
well, if they were artificially created, then yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you talk about artificially created. Oh
Right,
yeah.
artificially created. Like, and if
That's
we add in Genesis with 4, where the other groups of people were said to already be here and stuff like that, we definitely can make some arguments about different scenarios where the first human was a male and not a female. We could make those arguments with that. But it's like, that's gonna ruffle feathers. It really is. Okay.
but that's how. But see, even though it ruffle feathers, as long as a person is able to keep his emotions controlled, you can talk about it and come to different interpretations or conclusions. I
Mhm.
mean, you can always come disagree to agree to disagree, but it's different interpretations. So
Mhm.
and God is all things. So you have to
Yeah.
understand is that you're going to get he's omnipotent, what they call it, omnipotent. So
Omnipotent.
you're going to get a different interpretations. You're going to get different understandings.
Mhm.
It's the point is, do you believe it or not, and
Yeah.
do you
And if
think it
it works. Right.
applies to God or whatever that your belief in
Mhm.
when it comes to God.
Right.
But and as long as what I do, I keep an open mind and I observe and listen to the person's communication, how they communicate in their words and their ideology as far as what they're trying to explain to get over. But you're going to get that. You're going to ruffle feathers, especially when it comes to the Bible or religion, because they feel as though you coming at them. It's just like being
Mhm.
in a relationship or
Mhm.
people thinking you one way and you're not. You
Right.
get so you're going to get that.
Yeah.
It's
And
just like if we go somewhere. We live in Baltimore. We go somewhere, and I used to run into this. You go somewhere else, and people say, "Oh, Baltimore, there, ho, ho, ho." Wait a minute now.
right. Like literally, I
Oh,
have to do that. Like, wait a minute, were you saying that? But
oh,
yeah,
wait a minute.
everywhere you go, you have to check people. Or but
Right.
see, I'm what I'm trying to do is essentially tell people, or at least have the discussion, because I don't always talk about religion, because I don't want people to think I'm beating down on religion. I want people always to know that I don't have to be Christian to read the Bible and understand what it's saying, or understand what it means in terms of its value. You understand? Don't have to be Christian for that. But it's
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true.
like you really don't have to be Christian to find value in the Bible
Right.
or any book. But it's like
Right.
when
It doesn't even say
I
that in the Bible that you have to be. So that goes unsaid. They don't even say that in the Bible. But understand this. See, what I don't call is because I view different points. One thing in the Bible, I say I am. When he said
Mhm,
I am, that's who I am. So if I say things to you that you may say, well, you're a Unitarian, I am. Or I
mhm,
may say to you, you a Muslim, I am.
mhm,
So
mhm,
you're right. You don't have to be a Christian, but to understand what a person is coming from, I understand why he would say I'm not a Christian because his viewpoints, the path that he's on, is what I'm
right.
explaining is out his purview for understanding. So I understand that.
Right. It is, but I do think that people who are not Christians should at least, and Christians too, they should at least start looking at the Bible from a slightly different angle. Because I know it's tempting to look at it from a mythological standpoint or a religious standpoint, but whenever I crack open the Bible, I'm looking at it from a practical standpoint in terms of like, well, what is the truth? And it's like I don't feel like I'm censoring the Bible by comparing it to other narrations that came before, because again, truth does not belong to anything or any particular space. Truth is truth, and it's like the Bible doesn't have to be perfect for you to understand what the message is, or is not. So I'm okay with there being mistakes. I'm okay with there being misinterpretations, because again, we have intuition for a reason. You know.
So what
Um,
practical? You said practical. What
right.
practical? What you use it as a practical standards to make a determination?
For instance, when the Bible talks about a woman, the practice of a woman having sex on her wedding night and there being blood on the sheet, right?
Uh-huh.
That practically, that is a test to see, is she really a virgin, right? Because keep in mind, someone having a child by someone who isn't their father was highly prevalent when you don't have no way to know whose child is who.
Uh-huh.
So that is a practice. It's a legitimate practice to figure out who's who out here doing right, if you know what I mean. Like, it's
Okay.
not to say, well, women should do this if there's other ways or whatever the case may be, but it is a practical way that happened, and God never told anybody to do that. You're just reading part of the culture. That's it. It's different. God didn't say every time you get married there need to be white sheets.
So
God never said.
do you read it outside of a practical standpoint too, or you just look at it
Sometimes. Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. Like for instance, Paul. I don't really like Paul's explanation to a lot of stuff, but I'm gonna be honest with you, he one of the few people in the Bible that had a superb explanation of God. Like God in its truest form, not God in what the Jews thought it was from the writings of their ancestors. He was one
Uh-huh.
of the few that had a superb explanation of God in his letter. I forgot who it was to, but I read it and I was like, you know what, I can get with that. But the rest of that shit Paul talking about, I don't know what the fuck is going on
That's
with
just
him.
that's what I've been seeing that on different platforms for the
Hmm.
past. People do not like Paul. Then you have the Muslims. They just try to just discredit him big time.
Everything,
They
right?
just give
Yeah.
lot. Matter of fact, a lot. Even the scholars are trying to just take Paul straight out. I've been
Right.
seeing that a lot.
He's an easy target though, and he made himself an easy target. But that's why, cause he is. But it's like, don't get me wrong. There's some people that see the beauty in what Paul was trying to say. Okay, but then there's some people that's like, Paul, if you ain't Jesus, fuck you.
I just think it's a lot of misunderstanding, and
It,
Paul kills a lot of arguments, especially when the Muslims try to come at it. That's why they're trying to discredit or say Paul is not actually true. He actually
mhm,
didn't write it, because it kills them as far as what they trying to come at uh, like you don't like something like practical, or it says too much contradiction.
mhm,
So when they try to come at it, and when they try to trap someone as far as what a person believes when it comes to the
mhm,
Christian Bible, Paul kills the argument, a lot of their arguments. And so that's why. And then on the other hand, Christians who has misunderstanding,
mhm,
they cannot establish Paul confidently due to, like what you're saying, to some of the things that he is saying, or the way he worded his words. They
mhm.
don't have confidence within themselves to establish that argument. So that's why they don't even go there. But
But I
it's
think people fail to realize that Paul's writings is just that. He was a man that wrote a letter to somebody about something that he thought was important. His letter, he didn't write that letter saying, "Oh, I want my letter to be in the Bible." He was just writing a letter, and somebody put his shit in a book, and then they said the Bible, meaning the collection. He didn't write so that his writings could be your religious undertakings. That's not why he wrote. Like right now, our conversation is being recorded. if 200 years from now somebody want to use this as part of their religion, is that your fault, Vaughn?
No, it's not my fault.
Right. So it's like at the end of the day, nobody could sit there and say Vaughn didn't make that video because he was trying to be in the book of whatever the book they might have later on. They're gonna say that was just his pure opinion. Like I get it. It's in alignment with what you may be thinking right now, but he didn't make that for your religion. So you can't sit and discredit him in terms of your religion because his information was his to have and for his to give to the world as his opinion. Paul's opinion is Paul's opinion. Now, if you take something from it like I do, I take stuff from Paul's opinion. Now there's other stuff I'm looking at Paul and I'm like, I don't agree, but it's like that's what that is, and it's okay. Now the Muslim argument is just based on the culture of Islam, that, well, did it come out of Jesus's mouth? Who wrote what came out of Jesus's mouth? Were they there when he opened his mouth? What, like, that's their issue. And to a degree I get it.
Paul, but see, that's if you look at it as that Paul was doing it as an opinion. He did write letters, but it was other things that it wasn't letters. But if you look at it in an opinion standpoint, yes, you could come to that conclusion. But then you have to do the whole Bible then, because Psalms are songs,
right?
But it's being used to songs are songs, but they are being used within the religion and to show you who God is, because Psalms
not the problem of the writer or the editor.
Yes, it is. If they are songs, you just said it was a letter. Psalms are songs,
correct?
Right, and those songs are prophesized. It was prophesizing of things that was going to occur in the future. It's in Hebrews. It's showing that he was guided by the Holy Spirit. So was Paul. So was Matthew, Mark, and Luke.
But here's the thing: he might have been guided by the Holy Spirit, but the person that those songs were given to, were they there to say, "I'm going to put this in the Bible"? No.
No, that was done by the God.
Correct. So it wasn't the person that is actually relaying the information, or even the editor. It's like nobody back then was thinking about the Bible.
No. God, those songs was written by, it was this Holy Spirit that was sent to them. Those songs was put together to be put in the Bible.
I get it that it was compiled to be put there, but the person who was just singing these songs, that was just relaying this information to the people back then, because most people back then were illiterate and writing didn't have much to do with it.
You keep saying that those songs you keep putting in the way those songs and things was written by the person. It was not.
No, I follow what you're saying. What I'm saying is the person who uttered those utterances, right? They were doing it in the moment because that's what was supposed to be done to the people in that moment. Nobody there was trying to have their quote unquote work put in some big Bible, and that wasn't their intention.
No. It was God's intention.
No, we can argue that, but when I'm talking about the person, the person.
But why we put the person in it? The person has nothing to do with it.
No, you referenced the Muslims and the issue the Muslims have. The issue that Muslims are bringing up is the people that compiled it, the people that wrote it, whether or not these people were legitimate and whether or not the traditions were kept. It's a lot of technicality going on, right? But my argument is when you start talking about the legitimacy of the information, right? You can go back and forth about translation, but what you cannot go back and forth about is to say the original people who conveyed this message first were there trying to get their work in the Bible. That's not what was happening. So that's a false fallacy that any other religion can put on the original content creators of that information in the Bible. That's why I can read it and objectively take it in as information or spiritual upliftment or whatever the case may be. I don't necessarily need it to go either way. But when you have to see it a certain way, of sure you're going to misinterpret things and you're going to focus on unnecessary things when you look at it. I get that. And Muslims have a point that people shouldn't be all willy-nilly just believing everything and not looking at, well, who is this and where is it coming from? But at the same time, sometimes you can overdo that and miss the message.
Well, see, Muslim has a point because the way they come and at it, they don't understand it because they don't get into when it comes to spirituality of the thing.
They
They
have their
don't,
own book for
but
that.
they have their own book. But the thing is, it was an angel that came and gave it to Muhammad. But yet you don't understand as far as how the spirit comes and how God brings information and bring it through the vessel. But you understand what happens when it comes to Muhammad though. Then they go into as far as
Yeah.
how as far as it's been tampered with, but so is the
So is
Quran.
the Quran.
Yeah.
But see, they
So
don't.
so
Now,
but then
no,
they
they
say
don't admit that. They don't admit
they
that the
don't admit
Quran
it
has been
because
tampered
they
to.
go by different. They go by different. They say, oh well, it was compiled together by people that was
They don't know
from
that.
the Muhammad and stuff like that. Come on, y'all. It
They,
was it was
right.
it was
That's
put
a
it was
lie. That is
right.
a
So
lie.
so so
And
so come
I
on.
give you that. That is a whole lie because we know that the difference between the Sunni and the Shia Muslims,
Right,
right? They have their own Qurans that read
right.
differently.
They
So for
read
people to
different.
say
Not
that it
only that,
hasn't been tampered with, shit, come
right.
on.
But the hadith has been tampered with, and you need the hadith to narrate a lot of the things that's in the Quran, and
Uh,
that has been tampered with.
Right,
So
right.
and so come on they do that all the time, and they
All the time. Yeah.
try to come separate themselves,
Right.
which they try their best to do. You're not going to
Hmm.
be able to do it because first of all, what trips me out, they don't even have it over the Middle East as far as what is history fact or what they put in as far as what they did with when it comes to finding different manuscripts. It's done in England. What in
Well,
the
that's
world?
because most of the population out there doesn't. They don't read. 80% of the people in Middle East have never cracked open a Quran. Okay, but
Yeah.
80% of them claim to be Muslim.
Right.
That's because it's just the culture to say you're
The
Muslim and not
culture.
the culture
Right.
to actually be Muslim for what
Right.
that means. So that's
Right.
why when they come to the West and they get to talking to you, first thing you say is, "Wait a minute. From your position, you can't make this argument." And
Right.
but it goes back to the fundamentals of why they're making their argument about Paul.
Right. It goes right back to, and that's because I understand because they don't, because the way they come at it, the way they've been taught, especially when it comes from a scholar point of view
Hmm.
and an academic point of view. When
Hmm.
you go at Paul like that, you won't understand you will see contradiction. That's why I don't go back and forth because you will see it, and that's
Well,
because
here's the thing:
it's
what's wrong with there being actual contradictions in Paul? He was a man just like everybody else.
well, contradiction is going, but see, contradiction to them, the way they go by, they say it's not pure truth. It's not actual truth when you see contradiction. So that means you need to back off.
That's his
But
truth.
that's not what we do as a Christian and how we walk spiritually. It draws us to it. Where you see contradiction, we will see that, especially if you walk in a spiritual path. You will
Hmm.
see the contradiction, understand it, but yet you will see where it's no contradiction and where it's no confusion, and you will understand it. They come at it in a way which when we say worldly way, that's why they don't understand. That's why they're trying to destroy it. Because when they make the argument, Paul kills a lot of their arguments. Because we could come at it a certain way, be like, well, the spirit, especially when it comes to the spirit, oh, they get very confused and very upset. I see it all because I be on the platforms, on the Muslim platforms, and they get very upset. And but it, I experience it in Christians' platforms.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I see it because you know why? They come at it in a practical way, just like the Muslims. So I
Hmm.
understand both ways. It's just, and they can't handle Paul. Even a lot of
He
Christians,
said they can't handle Paul.
yeah, they
Listen,
can't.
y'all need to leave Paul out of this because Paul is a regular human being. He got a right to speak his mind, okay? But
Yeah, that's
I'm just saying, like, he got a right to be wrong. He got a right to be halfway right. But at the end of the day, the reason why you were given that internal compass of intuition is so that whatever you, and that's why I don't care if anyone's lying to me, because I know that my compass is going to tell me the truth. So it doesn't matter if I'm reading a book full of lies. If you truly in tune with you, it doesn't even matter what people are saying, like, for real. But again,
Yeah, right.
Muslims
Because
have
like you,
their
right.
position based on their culture, and that's really a
That's on that.
cultural problem they have. That's
That's
not
on
a
their
religious,
culture.
that's a
Yeah,
cultural problem.
yeah. It's a culture. It's a culture. Exactly. And that's where the misunderstanding. But like you said, which is very true, you use your intuition or your inner compass to determine what's a lie, or you may say what's true, as what we would say in the religious word, the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit would tell us, what is a lie, what is contradiction, whatever you think that is going on in this, the Holy Spirit will let us know and tell us.
That's a different terminology for intuition. It's
right.
just different terminology, but
Different
essentially the
terminology.
same thing.
Right. Right. So but and even though some people say, so you can't rely on your own intuition. They just, if you don't say it in a way that they understand, it throws them straight off. And this would miscommunicate. This would the misunderstanding come from, because people look at things, and like you just said, it depends on the environment and the culture you raise in. Because we raise in an academic way that you think that if a person, you say something to a person, like you will say intuition, or you will see a compass, an inner compass. To a religious person, they think that you is not a Christian, or you should have said it this way, and blah 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 blah.
Right.
Where the misunderstanding, and instead of just relaxing and putting yourself in that person's shoe. Oh, okay, they use it that way. Instead of using Holy Spirit, they're using intuition or compass, but listen to what they're saying, because it's wisdom being said.
Correct.
And that's where we get division.
Correct. That literally is where the division is based on language lines.
Yep.
Nothing else. Language lines. Because I know the scientific community go out their way to use, let's say, more exotic language to essentially say the same thing. So, I mean, I get it, because I can float in between. But if you really want to bring people together and cause understanding, you'll understand what words to use and which ones not to use, depending on your audience. But right now, given how wide this audience is, listen, y'all gonna take what I give you. That's what you're gonna do. Give you all of this. you're gonna take it. But I think we're gonna call it there, Vaughn. And we'll get up with them later with the more hardcore truth. Another time.
Right.
But M3 told me, he said, hit the button here. Now, granted, I don't know what that button is. I'm scared. I'm gonna try something. Hold on, stay right there, Vaughn. Hold on, I'm gonna try something because I'm in the show. But if to everybody, I'm glad I didn't have to bring but so much smoke up here. And Vaughn, he's a player for real. Okay, so let's.
What?
I appreciate you, Vaughn. And if you guys have any questions, definitely put them in the comment section. I can't promise you that I'm gonna read the comment section, because I got a life. I'm out here reading Paul. So no, I ain't gonna be reading y'all comments, but I will be back probably, definitely next week. There'll be a different live stream, different conversation going on than my usual, like axe grind stuff. But be on the lookout for that. And I will see you guys next week. And it's, as always, it's been a pleasure. Please make sure you like and subscribe. And just let us know what you think in the comment section. And we're out. Okay. So I'm gonna play this outro. Hopefully it play. If it doesn't, I'm gonna need M3 to come in here and help me. But stay right there, Vaughn.
Okay.
knowledge and relationships.